All right. It is another episode of Write Once, Read Many. Got a new song. As you can see, there's no speed draw because I hand drew this in pencil. I'm going to turn it over to Vic because Vic is leading the way for the next 4 weeks.
I was really scared you were gonna make me do like the intro, and I was not gonna be able to say right one read many properly.
Well, you're going to have to do it 3 times after this, so.
No, I was so glad when you didn't ask me, and I was like, oh, thank God I won't mention it.
Just remember, you are the leader right now, however much that means or doesn't mean.
Do you want to talk about your art? I thought, I am actually genuinely impressed. I think this was a really good, this drawing of Jess specifically is so good. Especially for your first time portrait.
Yep, it took me about 2 hours start to finish to do this drawing, which is funny because, well, maybe a little less than 2 hours, because then I was left with under an hour and a half on the second drawing, and I was just like, I can do it.
I can get it done. I mean, I've done that. I've done that plenty of times, especially with this, because I mean, this is the only thing I do that has a deadline. But I'll spend 4 hours on the first one, and then I'll have an hour and a half, and I'm perfect timing. Nothing wrong can possibly happen.
Yeah. I just wanted to say about this one, I used a lot of tips that you had given me. I had a reference image, I put a grid on the reference image, and then I drew myself a small grid on the paper, and I was using a ruler to draw the lines for the grid, but nothing else, and then the entire rest of it's freehand. I have a lot of really specific little things that I do when I'm pencil drawing. I am very conscious of the directionality of pencil strokes. The hair is more varied in this one, but you'll see in the second image, all of the hair goes the exact same direction, and it's not like I'm going one direction then stroking back the other way. For that hair, the strokes all come from the top and go down, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little things. I changed how I wanted her to look partway through. I'm kind of not super jazzed about how the nose ended up, but I think it's all right.
Oh, really? I think you did well on the nose. I think that starting, I mean, I still have this problem honestly, but starting portraits, the most surprising part I feel is how different noses look than what we think they look like. And so that's a big learning curve in my opinion.
Yeah. They're super difficult to draw, and I guess there's other stuff, after I had already formed the face, I was she kind of looks bigger than I expected. And I don't know how to get that, chin down exactly yet. I think this is different enough, in the end, from the image that I used, that people probably wouldn't be able to guess who the basis was, but... Hey, Greg. Yeah. Hey, 2 + 4 × 5.
Hi.
I was glad you pointed out the triple piercing. And I had when I think of a triple piercing, I think of what I put in there, but I looked it up just to look for another reference image. And apparently most people, when they say it, they mean 3 at the bottom. And I was like, what?
Yeah. When I was reading it, I thought the 3 at the top, because that I feel fits the vibe more. Usually when you're doing a one-side, in my opinion, usually when you're doing a one-sided triple piercing, it's not going to be the lobes. If it was both sides, then I would have thought
lobes,
it was the
then
lobes.
That makes sense, but
yeah. But yeah, I had forgotten that she's a cool, edgy Tumblr girl.
I didn't put
Taylor
put
just
eyeliner
never
on her.
acknowledges it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I just sort of ran out of time and forgot at the end, but I basically can justify it by saying, this is just the next day.
This is the next day. And also, she seemingly doesn't wear eyeliner like in any of um the fucking chapters that we've seen so far, because I feel like Taylor would mention it, because it is like the eyeliner she's wearing is like definitely more alt for the time. It's like a 90. I'm assuming because the way that they said it, that the way that Krauss describes it, but it's like a 90s like stick drawing around the eye kind of
Yeah.
eyeliner, which is like I feel like was really uncommon in 2012. In 2012, well, I guess this was a year before, right? So 2011.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like coming up 2012, 2013, 2014, it was definitely more popular to do like a winged eyeliner.
Well, I guess this scene in
But
particular, so the main story takes place in 11 and this scene takes place in 2010.
yeah, okay, I see. So 2010, what eyeliner were people wearing in 2010?
Oh
I
shit, it's actually
was too young.
Christmas of 2009.
2009,
Yeah, but
oh,
it's like
that's
Christmas. It's
worse.
like the last week of the year.
Okay, that's true.
Kraus
Yeah,
is all like, I've done all my Christmas shopping.
I did. Dude, God. I just had to put a comment about that because it's like literally a psychotic thing that he's.
Well, it's
It's like
funny.
probably
It's
of all the out of pocket stuff that he said, that to me is the most like shocking and alarming.
well, okay. So I do want to talk about it when we get there because like it's a thing where I think you and both of the We've Got Worm people. I didn't re-listen to this their episode for this recently. It's just something I remember them saying how like it really stuck out to them, and I just think it's less weird. I think there's only one main weird part about it. I think the idea that he's like, yeah, I love having it out of the way and done with is like that's totally normal. And then when he's
No,
like,
that's
I like
normal.
lording it over other people. That part's the part that's like, what?
The part that disturbs me is that it's September, because that
Oh, he
I
finished it in
do my
September. Yeah.
I do, yeah, so he started even before that. I do my Christmas shopping, in my opinion, extremely early. I finished it all like November 1st hits and I'm like, I'm allowed to Christmas shop now, okay? And I feel like alarmed by how early I'm doing it. And so I'd keep it on the DL. September? He finished it by September?
Listen,
Like that?
I'm the type of person who I don't always
No.
give gifts. So like when I see something and I'm like, I want to give that as a
Well,
gift,
but
I
that's
just get
different
it
because he went.
at the start of the like whenever that time happens to be, and I'm like, damn it, I have to wait 3 months until their birthday, or
No. That
it's
is
gonna be
reasonable.
4 months
Being
until
like,
Christmas.
being like I coincidentally got your present in September because I saw something that you would really like and I wanted to buy it then. That is normal. But he intentionally, seemingly, like went out and did his Christmas shopping. Like, I'm gonna go to the mall and do my Christmas shopping kind of thing. Anyways, I just, I don't know. It's the way that he says it. It's the fact that he did it in September. It's the fact that he did it intentionally to get it out of the way in September, and then the fact that he like brags to other people about doing it in September.
Well, doesn't he not brag? He just is bragging to himself in his own mind.
I I don't recall exactly. I think he's bragging in his mind.
Yeah,
Um, which does that make it better or worse? Because
probably better
it's like
because he's not
why is he
actually
still
saying
so
the
getting
shit.
about this? Anyways, so audience participation reminders
Yes.
for 17.1. I would love to know what everyone would do in the situation, uh, such as Luke and Jess's situation, and who you would choose to keep on the team. Maybe you do something crazy and add Oliver onto the team instead. Who knows? I want to know.
I'd rather have a team
Um,
that can't win, they yell.
yeah. 17.2. We would like to hear your reaction to killing Dragon, specifically killing Grandiose. So, I wrote a couple themes. It's kind of hard on, I feel like, on like some of the interludes themes because it's like we haven't like gotten deep into it enough.
Well, the good thing about this is I think that there's a pretty like I don't know. They treat Kraus like a proper protagonist in these instead
Yeah.
of like somebody you get for one chapter.
Yeah, for sure. My theme was hopelessness. Man,
Yeah.
if Taylor was in this situation without her bugs or whatever, she'd be freaking. Um, she would definitely get extended range. And then my other theme is tunnel vision, specifically Krause's tunnel vision.
Reading
Very,
the
very
further in,
focused.
like Krause's tunnel vision is insane. Like he's so like I know that this is like oh he's self-centered whatever. Like it's on a different level than a lot of people I think who are self-centered because it's like he's just so convinced that everything revolves around him and that he has to revolve as an axis around like Noelle. So to him, everything
Yeah.
is this weird two-tiered like planetary system where it's all
Everything.
rotating around and
Yeah.
it's clearly it's us. There aren't other things going on.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's really interesting too because he's like not he's not unempathetic towards the rest of his friends, but when he's thinking about like, okay, we have to get going because Noelle, or okay, well, I'll have to stick together because otherwise nobody will be able to help me with Noelle. But then like he obviously cares about them, so it is like it is really strange. It's like emotionally, I feel like he's not as tunnel visioned, but intellectually, he's really tunnel visioned. Does that make sense?
It's yeah, I think it does. It's weird because he's like and I mean I'll be talking about stuff as though we're talking about the whole arc at different points like just when I'm talking about the interactions and we'll talk about their individual moments as we go but it's kind of hard to not talk about all of it I guess
Hmm.
so like when Kraus is talking to Oliver, he's always nice to him and he does things that are nice, but when he thinks about Oliver, he's like, this little ant, get out of here.
Yeah, he's really mean spirited. I relate a lot to Kraft. He's really mean spirited internally. And even like the mean spirited, it's like people think that he's mean spirited. He's not. They have no idea. Like they have no idea what's going on behind the scenes.
Oh my god, Greg figured it out. Noelle's parents clearly wanted her to be a player of games. They named her Noelle so that she'd only take home the W's.
Oh, so good.
My god.
So
When I
dumb.
when I looked
Oh
at
my god.
Noelle, I was like, dear lord.
I know that one. Oof. I can't believe Wildbow invented L's and W's. Um, let's talk about 17.1.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we have a new protagonist these chapters, Francis Kraus. I always spell his name like the other way.
I do my best to get it right.
Krause.
Yeah.
Um, but I did go do a find and replace, so it should be accurate.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look right, but that's okay. A lot of Wildbow's naming doesn't look right to me. It's just not the way I would have done things.
It's harder because I listen to the audiobook too, so like on
Yeah.
some of the chapters I'm like, "Oh, I guess that's how it's spelled."
Yeah, it's like totally different than I ever anticipated.
Yeah.
Like Glastic Wenye, at that point I was only listening to the chapters, I think, because I had started like listening to it with my partner rather than reading it by myself. And I was like, when I saw them in person, I was like, what the fuck? So Kraus is getting pretty lightly chastised by his mom for the crime he's about to commit, which is leaving the house while his extended family is in town for Christmas. Man, I would have never gotten away with this. um, he's
I have
In
one of those
fact,
loosely
packed.
held together families. I definitely would have gotten away with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, he's got luggage packed too, and his mom's like, "What the fuck?" But he shows her what's in the luggage, and she's like, are you going to be able to make money off of this? Because otherwise it's kind of like a useless pastime. And he's like, oh, fuck yeah, we've already made money. I don't know if I even believe him. He's because he never mentions it again. And he doesn't say how much they made or who it went
Well,
to or
he talks
anything.
about stuff like the others talk about making money and like talk about
Mm.
making less money than like there's one of the complaints Cody has about him later is like, oh, the prank you pulled on me, it lost me viewers or like lost me donations or whatever.
Oh, okay, okay.
So he's like
So,
talking because from his perspective, Cody says in a later chapter, um, it was paying enough that I was making just a little under minimum wage to play a game. So like,
oh my gosh, they're making hella money then. Yeah, they're doing pretty well. So yeah, they've already made money. And today like could be making them a lot more. It's like there's gonna be a real big deal today. So he tells her that he was planning on like announcing it to the family tonight if everything goes well. But first he and his teammates are gonna have to have like a pretty ugly conversation to figure it out. And they've almost actually gotten signed for a 1 year long sponsorship and they're like hoping to go international, which is crazy. He lists all the people on the team and she notes that he doesn't include himself. And he's like, yeah, that's what the conversation's gonna be about. Um, and his mom's like obviously worried about like the friendships and like hurt feelings that are going to be involved in this, but he says he's being careful. um so Kraus and his mom negotiate with each other a little bit more, and ultimately she lets him go. This is like, I don't know, this whole interaction triggered me because it reminded me of, I don't know, it made me think of like the way that like Kraus negotiates with his mom in the exact same way that my little brother tries to negotiate with my mom, but it doesn't work. She just gets angry.
yeah,
So
but
like
your
the whole
mom's
time
not
I was like,
exactly a reasonable party most of the time. Kind of like
I know,
off in
but
her own world.
he's like 14 or 15 in this scene, right? And
He's
so
16 or
like,
17.
okay, they're a little older,
I think
but
he
I
might be
just
16 now because like they're distinctly older than Taylor when she meets them.
I see. I was thinking of them as Taylor aged still, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was like 14 or whatever, not acceptable. But I guess 16 or 17 is more reasonable for him to like, you know,
It really
come at her
depends.
like
I think
this.
that you guys were more of like directed as kids. When you're more of a
Yeah.
latchkey kid, like by the time you're 14, I don't know. Like I was even as like a kid, we didn't have a screen on my window and like I'd just hop
Hmm.
out the window and go walking around the neighborhood at night and stuff.
I think maybe the thing I'm coming from is like having brown parents. Because I think that like my upbringing is like really similar to those kinds of people's situations, like
Mhm.
kids of immigrant parents and kids of brown parents. But it's just a cultural thing.
We
So
haven't
I can handle it.
was your dad more like chill then? Like I'm just trying to
Oh yeah, he's way more chill.
so it was really the gap of
Yeah, and I mean, I hear from a lot of like people with brown parents and immigrant parents, like they'll like see the way that white kids or teenagers or young adults will talk to their parents, and they're like, "Oh my God." Like, I can't believe you're allowed to talk to them like that. I think it's like a kind of a common realization.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things wrong with the way that most people get raised, but I actually think it's better to have the kind of relationship where Kraus can negotiate with his
Yeah.
mom because
I mean,
I
like this
think when
seems
you
good
cut off a
because
kid's autonomy, then like
yeah.
I'm one of those people who like firmly believes that as foolish as these children may be, I do think that they deserve a full personhood in a way that most parents seemingly don't believe in.
Yeah, they definitely are like in this conversation. I mean, I feel like it would depend on how she was reacting and how he was reacting, but I feel like they're both being like healthy and reasonable. So it's good to see. It just to me, I was like, oh my God. I was getting anxiety,
Yeah.
secondhand anxiety for him. So, she lets him go. He takes the bus and arrives at a coffee shop, and he just takes a moment to stare in the distance at his love interest from across the room. In We've Got Ward, or We've Got Worm. They refer to Taylor doing this as
Description
description
fucking.
fucking.
Such a
And
good
then
way to
when
describe it.
Kraus
Oh my god. I
and then
love
when
when they.
Kraus does it, they call it description making love. I feel like that's very accurate. It's like so weird and gross. But it's okay. So he goes up to her and he calls her captain, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're gonna embarrass me." And then
Which is awesome. Kraus is blue to tiger. He's all like, ladies, I'm taking a
lady,
lover.
it's too real. Um, But and then he goes and pulls out her chair for her, and she's like, "You're just trying to sweeten me up for this talk that we're gonna have." And he derails to the other discussion that they are boyfriend and girlfriend, right? And also, you can still end it at any time. It's totally cool, and I won't get my feelings hurt. It's fine. And she's like, chill out, like I do like you. And she starts to say that she just is feeling like it's not fair of her that they don't actually quote unquote do anything together. And Kraus is like, we do things together, like enjoy each other's company. And she's like, yeah, that's true. So this is like clearly a like thing that's been looming over both of their heads kind of thing that she has like a issue with, and he doesn't, but she like can't get past it. So
And I do
um
want to talk about their relationship more once we've gotten past part later. Just like the dichotomy he has in his head of like, I couldn't go out with someone like Jess, but I could go out with someone like Noelle, even though it's like his complaints about Jess are like, we couldn't fuck because she has a wheelchair, and it's like, ah, you shouldn't fuck
yeah,
Noelle.
I think he's a little confused. Yeah, we'll talk about it. um
Ah, my headphones.
so Noelle's been super chilly the whole time, so she's been like rubbing her hands together for warmth. And right when Kraus like puts his hands on top of hers to warm them up, their friends approach. We've got Marissa, the hot friend, Luke, the stoner friend, and Jess, the edgy friend who's also disabled.
The Tumblr
Um,
girly.
the Tumblr girly. I mean, I get it. She would. How poppin' was Tumblr in 2009?
So poppin'. No, for real.
So poppin'.
Well,
Oh
it was
man.
it was probably too new. It wasn't Tumblr yet, was it? Let me see. When did Tumblr start? I'm realizing that it may have been February 2007. You know what?
Okay, okay.
In superhero worlds, I bet it started even slightly sooner.
I think, and I think that like being a marginalized person definitely pushes you onto Tumblr quicker. So yeah,
Yes.
Jess is definitely a Tumblr girly. That's where well, I don't know. I think Reddit's got to be where she's getting all her superhero information.
Well, okay, so Reddit's where she gets like the news articles, and then Tumblr is where all the memes are, and
Goss, yeah.
um, all of
The hot
the
goss and the edits and all this and that, the
and like
shipping.
links to sites that only go through like these sites are also linked on Reddit, but they go through and allow you to see the Earthbet internet a little bit. Like, oh, look at this crazy thing. I feel like there were so many links on Tumblr when I was on there 10 years 13 years ago. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, it's further back. The past is further away than it was before.
I know, it's terrible. Um, so they all approach. Oh, I pulled a quote here actually for you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Jess. Noelle apologized. The second girl arrived. We should have found a table closer to the door. She keeps saying she doesn't want us to treat her different, Krauss said, shrugging. Don't see why we should have. Ugh, sorry. Don't see why we should have. I just didn't expect that sentence to be that way.
Yeah. So Jess clarifies that Kraus is, in fact, an idiot and a bad ally, and Kraus calls her a cripple in return. Good job.
Dude, he's
Marissa
being
cuts
so bad
them
in
off.
these chapters. Like, it's...
I know, he's so hated.
Noelle is, like, always kind of like, oh, I'm not being fair to you. I think she's overly fair to him by dating him at all.
Um, yeah, that part's pretty rough. Marissa cuts them off and says they need to get down to business because they don't have a lot of time. So they tell Noelle that she gets the final say, but Noelle is overwhelmed by the complicated situation of them all being friends and like the fact that she and Kraus are dating obviously add another layer to that. But Luke cuts her off and says that despite all that, the logic of the decision is sound, and it would have just been easier if Kraus sucked. If things weren't getting so serious, then they would just keep Cody. But with the possibility of these sponsors bringing them international, it's obviously more complicated. Cody's just too boring. Dude, that one hurt. That cuts deep. If I heard somebody called me like Cody's just a boring person. He plays boring and he acts boring.
Yeah.
So sad. Um, but he's boring all around. He doesn't pick up fans. He doesn't pick up sponsors, and his like plays are boring.
Yeah, he says he plays in
And
like
no,
a traditional style or whatever.
yeah. So Noelle jumps in, and she says that despite Krause's downfalls, he has more natural ability to adapt and mix things up, and he's got lots of fans as well. Greg says, Captain, logic dictates that. Luke, probably.
You may not know, but Spock says that all the goddamn time before he describes whatever he wants to happen.
I did assume that it was Star Trek based off of that.
Mm-hmm.
So despite all that, the fact that Cody's their friend and like kicking him off right before this like huge sponsorship is going to be a real big betrayal. And Krauss says that despite all the work that Cody puts in, he's hit a cap and he's not improved, like, and he isn't going to improve because he just doesn't have the natural talent. Luke brings up that the thing that drives Cody so hard is that he can't stand to lose. So like, how are we expecting him to react? Which kind of leaves everybody just kind of sad and quiet.
Mm.
And then I pulled a quote here.
Okay, so we're in agreement then? Noelle asked. She was hunched over her coffee, both hands wrapped around it for warmth. She didn't look happy. Last chance for objections, or to say if you're having second thoughts. I won't be angry if you do. Did she want there to be a good argument against this, so that there wouldn't be confrontation? Nobody spoke up.
I get it. I don't think that was what Noelle was doing, but it is like kind of a reasonable response from Cass to be like, maybe she wants there to be an issue so she doesn't have to deal with this at all.
Yeah, it's I mean, I understand, like, it's so much easier for her if it's just like, oh, but if Krauss was on the team, then X, and then it's like, okay, thank God we don't have to talk about this.
Yeah. So while they all go to leave, Marissa runs up to the counter and buys donuts for her and her girly Noelle, and Noelle just like rolls her eyes at her. They head to Luke's apartment, or Luke's brother's apartment or whatever, and they have Kraus take the elevator with Jess, so that the others can like get in and break the news before they actually walk in. So while they're alone, Jess is psychoanalyzing Kraus to tell him that she like can tell he's really nervous because he's acting overconfident. And Kraus suggests that Jess is paying attention to him because she has a crush on him, and she genuinely laughs, and it like actually hurts his feelings, which is like really funny that it like backfires like that. And he thinks about how Noelle had been the one who everyone's fought over the most, despite like whatever issues she has going on. And he decides that it's just her own business. I don't need to worry about it. But he can tell that Marissa knows. So like at least I guess he knows she has support in the group. I don't know, Kraus.
Awesome. 2 + 4 × 5's boss left early, and so he's going to listen at 1.5 times speed to eventually catch up. 10 minutes behind,
yeah.
That's not bad.
Oh my gosh. Well, we'll see soon, I guess. So when they arrive out of the elevator, Cody is shouting about how much Kraus sucks. He doesn't even want him on the team. He didn't want him on the team in the first place. He's a creep. He's only dating Noelle to get on the team. He's
That's
cocky,
the part that seemed insane
delusional.
to me.
That part is like,
you think that he's only dating Noelle because of the team and not because he's obsessed with Noelle. You don't think he's on the team because of Noelle? Because I think that he wouldn't be here if she wasn't here.
I think that yeah. I like Cody's just one of those people who like sees somebody who like rubs him the wrong way, and his immediate response is they're manipulative and everything they do is planned, which I've met those people before. Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people who don't intentionally do all the manipulative things. They just do it. Do you know what I mean? Where like it's so natural to them, they do not even consider or think about it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that he is. I mean, I don't think he's been manipulating Noelle at all, really. Just, I think that it's like, as you said, the world revolves around Noelle. The world does not revolve around their stupid gaming team. So
yeah.
Yeah. And if he's like one of those people that is like capable in seemingly he's like talented and smart, and like that added on top of his like cockiness makes it so that it looks like everything he's doing is intentional rather than like things just kind of work out for him because he asked for it and because of those like other attributes that he had.
Yeah.
That's how it comes off to me.
Kraus is more of like a Palpatine-like figure where he just sort of slides into situations while they're already collapsing.
Yeah. So their friend Oliver is there too, and then Marissa's hot friend Chris is there, and he's thoroughly unimpressed.
Of course the hottest girl's friend is the hottest guy.
Yeah, he's like, I don't understand why this hot guy Chris gets so many ladies and why Marissa's friends with him. And it's like, okay.
It also seems like probably if Marissa is friends with him and she's not really friends with like Kraus, he's like, Chris is probably a pretty good dude from just like the vibes. Like, I just don't think Marissa would have she's very meek in a way that makes me think she wouldn't want any mean friends.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, and it sounds like he seems like a good person because all of Marissa's other friends dropped her because of her like leaving the dance and like all the other things she did, I guess.
Yeah,
and he didn't.
like all the rest of her friends were either like conditional friends or not close enough that like her mom didn't drive them away or whatever. And then
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think that they had like a dance moms situation. So like even if they had wanted to be friends with them, with her still, the other moms are gonna be like, no, you're not allowed to be friends with her. She's not like in our community anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, that's how it comes off to me. But Cody is somewhat fairly upset about this whole discussion happening without him. But also, you know, um, but it like makes sense why they would have had it without him because of the way he's reacting right now. And I pulled a quote here.
You think the others are gonna say he's? I'm channeling Crispy, who's British. You think the others are gonna say he sucks and he doesn't deserve a spot on the team while looking him in the eyes? It was Luke who answered him. Honestly, yeah, we would.
I agree with that. I think that
I think Luke would.
Luke,
Luke's waiting for an opportunity to tell Krause he sucks.
he literally said that when he was doing it. He's like, I wish you sucked more because then I wouldn't get to let you on the team. And like I think Jess is just like too candid. She's definitely just like a really like honest person. So
Jess already
I don't
roasts
I
him in ways that actually hurt his feelings.
yeah. She like laughed too hard earlier at his joke. It was very upsetting to him. And then Marissa would just like I think that she would just defer. Like if she thought that he was bad, she would not have said that they should do it.
So he was right on probably a 50-50. I think Jess and Luke would have laughed him out of the room, and Marissa would have been like, I don't know. And Noelle would have been like,
Yeah.
I can't handle
I
this.
don't know. Yeah, no, I would have been like, I can't choose because I'm too close to the situation. When Krause enters the room, Cody's even more pissed. And Krause is like, I'm actually really sorry. Like, I know how hard you work. Um, and then like quickly he like says something nice and genuine and then like very quickly gets triggered because Cody's like, yeah, I work 10 times as hard as you, and Krause is like, well, you're not very good still, so that's sad.
Kraus,
um
Kraus does a thing that happens to me a lot, which is that he'll be talking to someone who he has conflict with, and basically the entire time he's holding back from saying the, like, you know you suck, right? Like, you're not even, like, at the level where you can be having this complaint.
Dude, he doesn't even hold back. I mean, I think that he like tried to go into the situation like genuinely, and then as soon as he insulted him, he's like, all right, fuck you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he's got a low threshold for these kinds of conflicts,
Mhm.
which we've seen before with Taylor. Like when in the last couple chapters or whatever, when she's like, "Can we still be friends?" and he's like, "No, I hate you and you're ugly."
He has zero
Um,
chill in that scene. He
yeah,
does not help his own goals.
So Luke tells Cody that his options are to hit Kraus or he can stay and watch the game. And if Kraus fails today, then Cody's going to be back on the team. So Cody seems pretty confident that Kraus sucks. So he's like, I'm going to stay here and watch you crash and burn. Um, yeah. I mean, we'll see. So Kraus unpacks his computers from his luggage and he tells Noelle that he actually took his old machine and he spec'd it up to give it to her and she can consider it an early Christmas gift. Aww. And I pulled a quote here.
She stared at him, and he tried to interpret her expression. A used computer for a present? Would she be offended? Or conversely, was she bothered at the idea that he'd given her a 2-year-old $2,000 machine that he might want something of equivalent value? It's like
Yeah,
it's like a
sad.
tough like situation where he probably like didn't think this through until this moment, and it's like, ooh, and like Noelle, I imagine, is probably thinking like the second thing, not the this isn't enough, but the oh my god, I don't know how to handle this situation.
Yeah, she's like, I don't know. She's got that. This is like clearly an ongoing problem for her rather than Kraus, and so he's like trying to be sensitive to it. It's like really, I feel like it is really hard for like for teenagers to kind of navigate these kind of situations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Greg said, to be fair, they do crash and burn, just not in the game.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay. That's rude. I had totally like hallucinated this chapter to include them playing the game. I don't know how. I was like reading it and I was like, man, I don't want to write the like overview of the game they're about to play. And then it didn't happen. And I was like, what the fuck?
Doesn't play game. What?
Yeah. What? But Noelle has a positive reaction, so that's great. She hugs him, and this is like obviously a rare bit of physical contact between them. And the group talks about how they're going to strat for the game tonight. This is like a reveal. This whole time we did not know what type of team they were on together. So now we know that they're
I'm definitely
gamers.
like I was for sure thrown off because I thought that they were in some way all capes who had known each other. Like, I thought that they were going into this and, like, we could be on the world stage because our powers are so fucking
Yeah,
good.
I think that's what Wildbow's going for, is that you think that that they're a Cape team and they're getting sponsors, and he's trying to like make himself official and stuff. And like the plot twist is that they're actually gamers, which is like my favorite plot twist of all time, because it's like such a uh it's like so underwhelming. It's like makes it even more ironic.
To refer back, I did want to say the thing that Scarlett had said about her own song. I had said, "I'm listening now. I like that it sounds video gamey. The guest protagonist for this arc is trying to be a pro gamer." And then she goes, "Lol, I knew it was about someone trapped in a video game. That's why I wrote it like that." And then I just
Oh
go,
my
"It's
god,
not
that's not
about
what I
someone trapped
said.
in a video game." And then Scarlett goes,
That's so funny
"What?
because
Oh my god!"
That's so funny. I can read the description that I sent her for the song, because I definitely didn't say that, and it's really funny that she didn't just like go look and reread that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I had said it's all right. It's funny that you say that because it's like a murky interpretation of what really happens, or at least thematically resonant.
Oh my gosh. Man, let me see if I can find it. Actually, I didn't realize it was so. I said, okay, so I said they were transported to an alt. I said a team of gamers are transported to an alt Earth, and in their panic, try to get back. Blah, 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 blah. So I guess, I said there's a lot of fighting and emotional hijinks. The main theme of the story is Kraus trying to save the day for this girl he's in love with, Noelle, but he ignores all her problems until it's too late. That can be looming for everybody, but like we obviously know that things aren't going well with Noelle.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's really
Man,
funny.
Kraus is just not old enough and too scared of like in some fundamental like deep-seated way of facing the idea that like he and Noelle should just not go out and maybe they go out later or something, but they just
Yeah.
flat out shouldn't be together because no one should be with Noelle right now. And like I don't
I
know.
think we could talk about it more, but I think if he just like wasn't so like ignoring of everything, then it could have been normal and fine, but it's just
Maybe
as
I just
always.
don't think she has her shit figured out enough to like uh it's like when somebody's going right into in recovery or whatever from addiction and they're not supposed to
Yeah,
be start a
they're not supposed to
relationship at
be
the start of
anywhere.
the thing because they're supposed to learn about themselves before on not alcohol or drugs or whatever before they engage with another person to sort of
It's just
solidify their own emotional needs or whatever.
yeah. Oh God. Greg said, I was transported to another world where there are lots of superheroes and my girlfriend is now a giant monster.
What a good
Obviously
light
the anime.
novel.
Yeah, it's just that Noelle is like one of those people that is so incredibly insecure that it's going to have like an orating effect on everyone around her until she can like get it together. So I don't know. It's
Oh,
yeah, it's a whole thing.
I gotta edit the stream title. I am the sidecar here, so my name goes on the.
Oh,
There we
true,
go.
true, true. Um, so anyways, yeah, they're all a group of gamers. The main players are Noelle as the captain, Marissa, Jess, Luke, and now Kraus. Chris and Oliver are the quote unquote second stringers. I don't know if this is gaming jargon. I've never heard it before. But
It's
I
like pretty
assume they're
normal.
like
That's not for
they're like
like gaming per
sit-ins.
se, but like if you were describing any team or organization of a thing, second stringer is like, you know, they're not
Mm-hmm.
on the main team and probably they're not an alternate for the starting five. You've got your starting
Mm-hmm.
five, you've got your sixth man who can come in when people are tired, and then you've got all your second stringers.
Yeah. So I mean, they seem plenty happy with that. As Noelle is giving the lowdown of our technique tonight, the building rumbles and the power cuts out and all the
My
computers turn
gaming!
off. No, the gaming. This is terrible news. I
Well,
would honestly be like really upset about.
well, it's like that time that like I wanted to stream and OBS just wouldn't work at all, and I was just like,
Yeah.
"Fuck!" And I had to troubleshoot for like an hour before we could start.
Yeah. It's just like really and like in this situation it's like in like I guess they could try again with their sponsors, but like missing a game is obviously like a huge deal. And even if it wasn't a huge deal, like pushing it off like this huge pinnacle moment, I wouldn't have been able to handle this if it stopped here, but unfortunately it doesn't stop here. Because Kraus feels the floor tilting and then he's falling over and everyone's falling over and things are falling on them and Noelle gets hit by a table because of course he's like staring right at her as he's falling over, and then the PCs start like falling because they've taken longer to fall because they're being held by their power cables, so they start to pop out of the power cables, and then one of them almost hits Kraus and he dodges it. That's great. Unfortunately the rest of them just, which is
He should have done a combo
I
move
guess,
where he dodged one and spin kicked the
and then
rest.
shoved Noelle
Yeah.
or used himself as a human shield, but he didn't because he was thinking about himself instead of Noelle, who he obviously should have been thinking about instead.
I don't think there's any way he could have tanked that shot for her, though, honestly.
No, no, no. I think they're like kind of further apart by now because with like when the table hit her, I think she got like slammed back. So, anyways, seemingly 4 or more PCs fall on top of Noelle, and there's like screaming and there's heavy thuds as more of the apartment starts falling on them. So the whole apartment has been turned to its side. Kraus goes to check on Noelle, and she is unconscious and barely breathing. Very concerning. And the screaming sound isn't stopping, which is weird because he can hear. He's like one of the girls is screaming, but then Noelle's unconscious, and he can hear Jess and Marissa. So he's like, "What the fuck?" And he notices the person who's screaming isn't even like stopping to breathe. Um,
And then he
Kraus
realizes
sees
that the screaming is not a physical sound.
Yeah. I think it's next chapter he figures it out.
Oh, really?
Um, So Kraus sees Luke and tells him that Noelle is hurt. And he's like, well, Chris is dead. So stop talking about Noelle all the time. Kraus picks up Noelle, and Luke and the others throw down like a knotted up sheet, and they drag them up to the
Oh,
doorframe of the kitchen.
sorry, here's what it was. And that keening, it wasn't stopping. Didn't she need to catch a breath? He covered his ears. It didn't help. Must have hit my head. So he thinks he's getting like
Yeah,
tinnitus ringing from having like fallen half a room away and struck the wall.
I see. I see. Yeah. 2 plus 4 times 5 says I keep getting interrupted by customers, so now I'm 10 minutes and 15 seconds behind. This is terrible news. 2 plus 4 times 5. And
Yeah,
you'll get to hear that in 10 minutes and 15
what
seconds.
I figured was I didn't need to stop to talk about it as the message came out, because that was like a minute ago. I was just like, yeah, it's gonna be a longer delay than normal, no matter what we.
So all the rest of them are like in the room above, and they pull them up. And Chris is dead in the corner. I think he's been smashed and or impaled by a bookcase.
Yeah, it smashed half his head.
Yeah, very sad. Luke suggests it could have been an earthquake. That's crazy. Where are they? Where do they live?
Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay, so probably not an earthquake, but I understand why you would not be able to think of anything else.
Yeah, it's not likely that a big space alien angel thing pulls your building through a dimension.
I would be more inclined to think that it got hit by a plane, or maybe there was a bomb or something, personally. Like if it like if that happened here, because earthquakes don't happen here. We had one earthquake in 2020 and you
Oh,
could
well,
like barely feel it.
I think that this may shock you, but we're supposed to have the big one like every 20 years, and we haven't had the big one in like over 30 years. So
Oh, it's
people are
gonna be
getting
really big.
really concerned.
Oh no, oh no, don't tell me that. It's okay. I'm not really scared of earthquakes. I'll just go lay in the bathtub. Um
With a
anyways,
bottle of wine, right? You were already in there drinking
yeah,
the
with a
wine.
bottle of wine. Hell yeah, with my doggies.
Yeah.
We'll have a great time. Um the entrance of the apartment is all blocked with like furniture and debris. So Kraus suggests that they use all the furniture as ladders to go out the window at the top. So pretty good plan. Good job taking charge of the situation, Kraus. Um, when it's all set up, they climb out and they find that the snow has stopped, but it's been replaced with a really strong cold wind. It's in fact even colder than it was supposed to be today. They find a dozen buildings around them also knocked over. Spooky. Marissa
When
complains
did they
about
all
the
get knocked
music or
over?
yeah. Oh yeah, it's right here. Marissa complains about the music, and then they're like, "You mean the singing? Oh, you mean the screaming? Oh, you mean the sirens?" And then they find out when they cover their ears, they can all still hear it, and they realize with horror and see for themselves that they're in the middle of a sea merg attack. Oh
Yeah,
my
Seamerg.
gosh.
Fucking
Um,
Chris, or not Chris, Cody in the next chapter saying, the Smurf!
the Smurf. Oh my gosh, the Smurf.
I
I
also
like
think of all
literally.
their stupid voices as Crispy's voice.
Why?
Because of the audiobook.
Oh, okay. I see. I see. Just they were just all a little bit British. Um, Honestly, that kind of tracks. I feel like that wouldn't track with Taylor and her crew, but these guys are a little bit British.
Yeah, like that's why I have to remind myself. It's like, oh no, they're from Skansen. They probably do have an accent, and it's not the one that my head says.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of the chapter. What a good chapter.
Man, what a great chapter! Do you want to vamp about
What a
that
great
chapter
chapter.
for a couple minutes while I use the restroom?
Oh my God, I
I'm
guess. I'll
taking my
just talk
headphones
about
off.
how good of a person Kraus is. Problematic fave. This is our new protagonist, Kraus. Um, he is just a silly, goofy kid he's in love with this girl and likes to ignore all of his problems. And maybe I can think of all the ways that he and Taylor are similar and dissimilar. Obviously, they're both really good compartmentalizers. Um, I don't know if good is the word. He definitely is like at different times like pushes aside different emotions and stuff, and different aspects of the situation, but in the end is always overcome by those emotions that he thinks that he doesn't have. Just like Taylor. Um, let's see. Greg says Taylor has bullies and not bullies. Krause has Noel and not Noel. That's so true. They're both really black and white thinkers in that way. There's people who are Noel and there's people who are not Noel. And it's like so weird too. We can talk a little bit about like Krause's basis for his romantic feelings, but like he seemingly at some point thought of any of the women or the girls in his group as like viable, as romanceable characters, as they say. And then in the end chose to date Noelle, which I don't think is like I think that's like honestly kind of like typical for a lot of people picking relationships. You're just like this is the person who makes the most sense for me and then go with it. It just kind of makes it like, would he have these kinds of like crazy intense feelings about anyone, or is there something about Noelle that like just brings out this aspect of him that's like a lot more a little bit obsessive, very tunnel visioned, as we said. um I don't know.
I don't know what I missed, but I'm returning.
All right, I'm talking about Kraus.
Nice.
I was just wondering if like, because the way that he talks about it, it's like he had seen all three of these girls as like possible, as I said, romanceable characters.
And I
And then
literally
he
think
like,
either of the other two would be better picks for him and his situation.
and then yeah, and then he was like, he picks Noelle, and then obviously became like crazy and obsessed with her, and I like wondered if he like that would have been the case no matter who he was dating or no matter who he was interested in, or if there's something like about his relationship or his dynamic with Noelle that like makes him like this, like so hyper vigilant. Maybe it's
I think
just that
he.
he
So
wasn't hyper vigilant as at first and then like needed to be because of the way she reacts to things.
I think what happened is that he goes through and has this like interaction with Noelle where he's kind of like into her a little bit. Then he does the thing we see later on where they talk for the first time. Then they're like, okay, we'll do this gaming club thing. And then he just like, oh man, she's the perfect girl. And he keeps being like, wow, isn't she just better and better every day? And then like,
He has a gamer girl moment. It's like every time guys are like, "Oh my god, she's amazing because she's a gamer girl."
yeah. But like I think in particular it's like just because he picked her and because he started down that road, he's like, well, now I'm in love with her, and like he has to. I don't know. I think that it's not actually about anything about Noelle. I don't think that he's in love with her in particular. Just the idea that almost that he should be in love, and that now that he's got this thing started, like it's the one, baby. Only date one person.
She's the one. Vale says they made it. Great job, Vale. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think he likes her specifically.
Well, I think there are some
But I
things about her
also,
that he likes, but I think that if he had been like, I think he could have gotten just as looped into being in love with Marissa, and he puts up this
mhm.
barrier. Like I think Marissa and Jess are both great like counterpoints or whatever, because like he puts up this barrier why he says he couldn't date Jess, but the truth is that if he had had like the same runway that he had with Noelle, where he's like, oh, I'm in love with this person, like
Mm-hmm.
first he and Jess are just kind of a better match because she can actually like stand up to him in a meaningful way, and
Mm-hmm.
because he doesn't have to pretend to be someone else around her, whereas he does 100% of the time pretend to be someone else around Noelle.
Mm.
I think that it is a relationship where he is going into it and just projecting who he thinks he's supposed to be for the relationship. And the biggest problem, aside from like he can't see Noelle, is that he uh he can't see his own emotions and would rather follow this like script or whatever. That's what it feels like to me. Like he's got to be like, now that they've started this thing, he's in love with her and they're going to be together forever, and he doesn't care
Mm-hmm.
if they can't kiss or have sex or whatever. Even though
Yeah.
like that's
Well, I
his
want to
stated reason
dispute.
for what.
That's not what he says about Jess. I
That's
can
not
read.
what he
I wanted to
says, but
dispute it.
like,
N- No, he's more concerned about his looks and having to accommodate her. But here's what he says about Jess. The thing was, he mused, Jess would probably be a good match for him. She was probably the best when it came to keeping him in line, keeping him real, and calling him on his shit. She wasn't bad looking either, but she was in a wheelchair, and though he sort of wished he could be the kind of person who could take that in stride, he had to admit he wasn't. And that's all he says.
okay,
To
I
me,
guess
that's
I
like,
interpreted that in like a particular way, given his teenage boyness.
it could be that. I did not interpret it as that at all. I think it's like the problem he has is the accommodations and like the way that it would like change his life, I feel.
I guess even with that as the understanding, it's like literally the same, where like
Yeah.
Noelle will take so much more accommodation in your life than Jess will. Like, seriously,
Hmm.
so much more. And it's like,
Yeah.
Jess's problem might be obvious, but Noelle's problems are much, much worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's just ableist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any other final chapter thoughts?
I think this one is particularly like a good opening chapter because it is setting up a temporary protagonist that we already know. It's a flashback prequel thing. It's trying to bamboozle us in a way that I think it successfully bamboozled me, and maybe you. The like don't know he's not a pro gamer,
I
or
knew
whatever.
that
Like,
they weren't. I could tell they weren't heroes, but I couldn't figure out what they were. I couldn't figure out what they were supposed to be.
yeah, but like I just kind of assumed that they had powers because he's like, we want to be a team and we want to do whatever. Like
Hmm.
I thought that they were going to be villains or whatever, and I thought maybe he was one of those like rare cases where like I told my mom,
Hmm. Yeah.
because like we know there are capes that like are villains and still openly interact with their families.
Yeah, for sure. And she's like, as long as it's making money.
Yeah,
She's like, this doesn't seem like a productive pastime. And then he's like, but we're making money. And she's like, okay, you can do it.
yeah.
That's
Oh
funny.
boy.
Yeah.
I think
What a good chapter.
yeah, it's just like super well done. His characterization's really good. I think it gives like much stronger character understanding to all of the others also, because I feel like I did know Kraus pretty well already at this point, and like we've
Hmm.
interacted with the others, but they're much more fleshed out with even just this one chapter.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like really nice to see such it like another team dynamic. Like we haven't gotten to see like an in-depth team dynamic. The closest we really got was um
The wards.
Gregor the Snails chapter. Yeah, the wards chapter as well, but the wards chapter was a little, it was just subpar because it wasn't like close enough to anybody.
Yeah, I meant, sorry, I didn't mean the Arc 3 one. I meant the entirety of Arc 9.
Oh, yeah, true.
And
but
they have a pretty weird dynamic given that Shadowstalker is part of that portion of the story.
Yeah. I just love getting like another chance to look at like the other different other team dynamics and stuff, and get close to other characters. And yeah, I feel like what you said, like Krauss is treated like a proper protagonist. This story is like it isn't even here. I feel it isn't even here to add to Taylor's story in any capacity. Like it is just completely standalone. And I think that's really cool and unique.
Yeah, I definitely, it's like notable, and Krauss's voice is so strong.
Mm-hmm.
So we can move on though to 17.2.
All right. Well, here they are, middle of a Seamerg attack. So they all start running. Luke is carrying Noelle, and Cody is carrying Jess. And Jess is conscious. They abandoned her wheelchair. So they're on top of the side of the building. And it's all windy and cold and unenjoyable. And the Seamerg and Scion are fighting up in the air. Luke's leg busts through a window and is like split open foot to knee, which
I gotta
which
say,
is
the
a
most
lot.
maybe it was like already structurally unsound because of the fall or something, but like I don't think that. Okay, also I guess this is taking into account I'm fairly slight, but like I just imagined putting down my weight onto a window like of a tall building, and I just didn't think that my weight would break it.
I mean, I got the impression that he didn't mean to step on it, so it could have
Maybe it
already
was
been
all of his
broken.
weight or something.
Because
Oh yeah.
because he talks about he doesn't have shoes on, so he's been sliding around in his socks. So he like might have accidentally like slipped over
Mm,
onto it, and then it was like already cut, or it was already like
semi broken.
partially broken. Yeah. Bill said, I love Arc 17 so much, though I have to admit, to my shame, I did not love it the first read through because I wanted to continue Taylor's
Dude,
story
I hear
so
that stuff
much.
so much whenever it's not Taylor's time to shine, and someone's like, I
I'm like,
can't believe we're getting
where's
this amazing
Taylor?
I can't believe we're getting this amazing Chevalier chapter. Show me Taylor.
2 plus 4 times 5 says Arc 17 is one of my top 5-ish favorite arcs in the story. It's a good one. So
Isn't
let's see.
isn't it
They
on We've Got Worm? I remember Matt told a story about how when his brother was getting him to read Worm, at one point what he did, like the final thing that worked, was just giving him only Arc 17 and having him just read it as a weird short story, and then he was all
Mhm.
in.
Yeah, I remember them talking about something like that as a standalone story. 2 plus 4 times 5 says, also, I'm only 3 minutes behind now, slowly but surely catching up. Vale said, same, but my first read, it was my fastest skimmed arc because I was like, where is Taylor? Come on, more Taylor, please.
I
Yeah.
understand. I
I
understand.
I understand as well. It's like anytime anytime I'm on an interlude, I'm like, ugh. But then I'm like, I'm also enjoying the interlude. I just like sometimes can't handle it. Like being forced to take a break from the rest of the story.
Oh man, well
Um,
wait, I have a non-pressing question, but it's one I haven't asked in quite a while. Where do you happen to be in Ward at the moment?
I haven't moved in Ward. Well, I
Oh
haven't been
my
able to go
god!
anywhere or do anything,
You just gotta
okay?
listen at home, dog.
I can't. My dogs are too crazy and I've been on call. Um,
Sad.
I know, I know.
I hate
It's
when
been
you're
too
on call.
crazy.
Talking about
I hate when
customers,
I'm on
2 plus
call.
4 times 5. we deal with those, and we're not a big fan.
We're not a big fan. I got hung up by somebody on another team earlier, and I'm still reeling from it, honestly.
You got what?
I got hung up on
You got hung up on by
angrily,
someone we work with?
one of the techs.
Oh, well, that makes more sense. I thought you meant one of the office
Yeah.
people, and I was like, motherfucker.
No, honestly, they hang up on me all the time, but it's because they don't know how to say goodbye because the stores don't say goodbye.
Yeah,
So I'll be like
their
talking and
awkward
then they'll
hang-ups are different, but if they were doing you dirty like a
no, yeah.
yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so he gets his leg sliced up and they're like, "Oh, does it hurt?" And then he's like, "No." And they're like, "Oh, that's good." Instead of what I would be thinking, which is, "Oh no, that's really, really bad."
Yeah, that's one of the things that Taylor thinks to herself in the Arc 7 or Arc 16 where she's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I didn't have anything bad because it would feel like whatever." And then she thinks to herself, "Then again, all of those really, really bad injuries I had didn't feel like anything."
Yeah. I feel like when your brain is protecting you from the pain, then you need to be a little bit more concerned. But, they're not thinking because they're all stupid.
Yeah.
And it's not like they can do anything anyway. So, Kraus crawls over and takes Noelle. They like tie her around his back, which is crazy, but whatever. And he tells Marissa to take the lead now that Luke is hurt. And then Jess like just sits there and screams. And they watch the Seamerg and Scion fight a little bit. And Kraus is wondering to himself how she even got here. Did she teleport? What happened? So the attention to her makes the scream. Go ahead.
I was gonna say she does like one of those like clipped yells where she goes like ah! And then stops herself and then she puts her hand over her mouth, which I find funny.
Yeah, like Taylor did in the last chapter where she started to yell in pain and then she's like, "Wait, I probably shouldn't do that." And then she gets she gets found anyways.
Yeah.
um So like drawing their attention to her makes the ringing and screaming sound in their head louder. And he shouts at Marissa to go, get over it. The city is like weirdly empty. Like they can only see a few dozen people running for cover, and that's weird. Where are all the people?
Yeah, this is a
Whatever.
whole city.
It's so strange. They reach the edge of the building and they discuss how they're going to climb down. So as they prepare to descend, the Seamerg is tinkering, and Kraus asks Jess about her. She's the only Cape Geek in their group, which I guess makes sense. This is like a few years before our worm, and things kind of seem to escalate exponentially when it comes to capes. So,
Yeah, but I feel like the sort of precedents and things are pretty well established by this point.
Yeah, that's true. But the other people in their group are also like not typical nerds gamers. Like,
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
Luke's straight up a
Oliver.
jock, right?
Yeah, Luke is like, well, he's got like a stoner grunge style. He's like a cooler kid. And then like Marissa is like mostly an athlete originally. Noelle and Jess are like the main like actual nerd people, I feel like.
Oliver's like a typical dweeby guy where he's got the glasses and stuff and like he's with the nerds, but he doesn't have like the powers of the nerds. And not like superpowers. I mean like knowing shit
He's
or
bad
playing
at
video games.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, Jess gives them the lowdown on Endbringers. But when they ask for more details, she's like, "I don't want to distract you guys. Let's talk about something else." And they lower themselves down into the build. So they like were originally going to climb down the side of the building, but they instead decided to climb down inside the building. Despite
which makes way
like the
more
risk.
sense. Because if they can move around, I'd way rather bust out a side window that's close to the ground than like try and climb down the sideways face of a building.
Yeah, I don't know how
Terrible.
they would have done that while carrying people nonetheless.
Yeah, two
So they
people.
can just, yeah, they can kind of like climb around on furniture and door frames this way. So they are climbing like through apartments. And after they make the trek down, they exit the building and they're finally out onto the streets of the city. There's a downed cape, grandiose, and he's dying like right in front of them. And Marissa runs up to stop him from moving because he's bleeding out. Um, Dragon starts euthanizing him from the armband. She's like, "All right, I'm going to kill you now. Do you have any words for your wife and son?" And the cape is like, "Oh my God, get away, and you need to evac as soon as possible." And then he holds the armband up to his head or his throat or whatever while it detonates so that it kills him. And it blows off his head and arm.
Nice.
Um,
I was saying
2
nice
plus 4
about
times 5
2
says
plus
they're
4
caught
times.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I murmured nice
Um,
right as Grandiose was blown up, so I was like, I better
it
clarify.
it also is kind of nice. I don't know. It's like a sick move.
I was gonna say I really like how this little thing, like with two capes we know nothing about, they characterize the Seamer pretty well because they're only fighting for a couple paragraphs or whatever. But like when those guys try and do anything, then she can like throw flack at them with her like most minor of power, which is the telekinesis, and then
Yeah.
she can like zing it around so that even though he was trying to like block the thing going for his companion, like whatever ally he had, then she got nailed by other debris anyway, and then like I don't know, she just like perfectly counters their powers in terms of like
Yeah.
timing, and she knows where they're gonna be and what she needs to do. So
Krause is paying quite a lot of attention to the fight during these scenes, and Krause is so like he's such a good cape. Like he has like perfect cape brain. He doesn't know anything about anyone. He doesn't know anything about capes. He doesn't know anything about the Sea Merc, and yet he's like really quickly clocking like her powers and like what she's doing and what other people are doing and stuff. I don't know. It's just like he was built to be a cape. It's unfortunate that things don't turn out for him.
I gotta say, people who are like natural, intuitive, like not necessarily the physical side of gaming, but like the like trying to intuit and divine better strategies and more efficient like in-game movements, like the kinds of things that are constantly running through his brain are what he
Mhm.
just needs for the real world now. So like
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's like the same reason why like Noelle just goes from being their team captain to being like the group captain or whatever because she's their strategist. Like the same things that she was doing apply to their real life now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh,
2
and
plus 4 times 5 said try telling that to lead.
yeah, Greg had said the head popped off. Um, Lead is one of those gamers who will like and this is pure accusation. I have no idea what he's actually like. Lead's one of those gamers who will play a Zelda game for the first time with the guide open and do the puzzle like it says for each action. Doesn't solve shit for himself. That's the kind of guy I get off of Lead. Like for real. He does not
Yeah.
seem like a someone who's actually good at games. He seems like one of those game enjoyers who is incredibly bad at them.
Yeah, I also think that like the online gaming sphere is going to be a lot more applicable to these kind of situations than the games that I think that they play, which are, you know, we know that they play Grand Theft Auto.
They play Mario,
What's
they
the
play
game?
Zelda,
Yeah, which are like
Bomberman.
obviously there's like still components or whatever that you can apply to real life, but it's less like I'm thinking about what this human person is strategizing right now.
Look, 2 plus 4 times
pleb
5. If
game
that's the
fans.
thing, he's in the pleb game fans. He's not on the Chad game enjoyers. I would say that
Oh
Noelle is
no.
on the Chad game enjoyers side of things.
Yeah.
Um,
um,
but you know that
let's see.
I feel like there are a lot of people who engage with video games on the most like tell me every single step of the way what to do level, and they actually do not think creatively when they play them.
Yeah.
Seen it happen.
Yeah, me too. um, all right. So Luke and Cody are obviously distressed at the guy getting blown up by his own people. And it's clear that just plain exposure to the Sea Merg is a big deal, even for the heroes and the other capes. So just to make them all even more terrified, the Sea Merg then just picks up their apartment building specifically, and shreds it. Like, I know that she is messing with them, but like, you would never know that, like, being in this situation.
You know, when I thought about it just now, I thought like she's kind of doing the like it's like literalizing the metaphor of you can't go home again. It's like even this shitty sideways apartment is not a home base for you.
Yeah, it's like the moment they get out of it, she's like, "Oh, good, now I can break the apartment." Fuck you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like so rude. Um, so the theme arc makes a big circle thing and it opens a portal. Um, I was gonna talk about this more later, but Kraus says, "Jess, I thought that you said she wasn't a tinker," and Jess says she isn't. She's never done this before, which I don't think I caught before. That like the Seamerk just hasn't been tinkering this whole time until this scene.
Yeah, that's the thing is that this thing that happens at the end of 2009, like a year and a half before the story starts, is the first time
Yes.
she's exhibited this, even though she could
This is,
always do it.
dude, she is such a savage. But she makes this big giant circle and then she opens a portal in it, and there's things like pouring out of the portal into the city. I like assume that it's like the portal is like tilted or it's like sucking things into it or something. um a few figures from the portal land near the group and they see that they are monsters and they begin to fight each other. It's spooky. So they run off into an alley, but one of the case 53s, which we know these are case 53s, they do not know what these are. But the case 53 pushes what did I say? Pushes I wrote event, but I meant effect. He pushes an effect on them and it like makes everybody weak and start throwing up and shit. But it does wake up Noelle. She starts muttering to herself, and Kraus is like, "Stay awake and keep trying. You
Dude, it's
go,
so
girl."
bad because she goes, "Don't, no, I've tried so hard."
So sad, dude. Um, 2 plus 4 times 5 said, but is Uber a Chad game enjoyer? Minecraft nausea potion effect. Dude, speaking of Minecraft nausea, when you said that, I was like, I get nauseous from playing Minecraft too, but that is not what you meant.
Oh, you get motion sick?
Yeah, from Minecraft specifically.
Huh.
Which sucks because I love building in it, but whatever. Um,
Yeah, I just didn't know
so
because I knew you played it, and that's why I was like, weird.
oh yeah, I play it and then I go lay in bed. It's really sad. So yeah, Noelle's like muttering, and then Luke has fallen to the ground, so Marissa has to help support him now. So we've got Marissa holding up Luke, we've got Cody carrying Jess, and then we've got Kraus carrying Noelle. What the fuck are who is left? Oliver? Oliver's just not doing anything. He's so useless.
Cody's carrying Jess because because Luke's leg is hurt, right?
Oliver though is who I'm
Oliver's.
talking about.
Oh, sorry.
Oliver's not doing anything because he's useless.
Well, technically correct.
It's just like funny because it's like this whole time we've like Oliver's been in the room with Taylor like twice, and each time like there's like the actual reason she can't recognize him is because his face changes, but she's like, some guy is here,
I don't even
and he like
recognize this
never
guy.
does. She never does or says anything or like worries about the fact that there's just some kid there that she doesn't recognize. And then so like in this chapter, like I didn't even remember that I had to go back and add the part that Oliver was in the room with them when Kraus walks in, because he does absolutely nothing this entire chapter. He's just It just makes me feel bad for him. He's
I
got
feel
nothing
so
going on.
bad because, like, in the end, he ends up with a power that,
He gets
while
the
not
best
good
power.
at fighting for capes, is pretty good at not fucking up your life.
Yeah, like he could be like a celebrity for sure. Could be like an influencer or something.
Plus,
Really
sometimes
has no
celebrities'
effect on
faces
his
do
life.
drastically change. I saw a picture of Sarah
Yeah.
Michelle Gellar for the first time in a long time, and I was like, no, I looked up Sarah Michelle Gellar to see what she looks like now.
Yeah. That's so funny. But he like totally just be like an influencer and like market on the fact like people could know that he like he's like, yeah, I have a power, but it like didn't work right or something. He doesn't need to be like specific. Um, let's see what these people said. 2 plus 4 times 5 said, oh my God, I never put that together about what Noelle said when she got hit with the nausea effect. Vale said, I was asked at work to look into using Minecraft as a technical drafting tool. That's funny. 2 plus 4 times 5 said, who the fuck is left? Oh, Oliver. Classic Oliver. You can't do the wrong thing if you don't do anything. Take that, Seamerk. Yeah, like Oliver, I feel like is not a part of the Seamerk's plan at all. He was just there.
Oliver is the one who defeats the Seamer by being too bland to be controlled.
She like doesn't even register that he's there.
I had all these precise calculations, and they
Oh.
were thrown off by
They were
Oliver.
thrown off by this thing that was there. Yeah, and I had to literally go because I was like reading this, and at one point they were like Oliver blah blah blah, and I was like, what?
Oliver.
He's been here the whole time? Oliver?
Him?
um anyways, they yeah, so they're all barfing and it's sad, and then Scion luckily blesses the city with some ambiance, so some magic radiance. And it actually stops the Seamark singing for a minute, which is nice. I get a little bit of reprieve. Um, Kraus urges Luke to get them to the nearest hospital, but Luke doesn't recognize the area they're in. And Kraus gets pissed off, and Cody tells him to ease up. I feel like Cody is like in this chapter, he like doesn't do anything wrong. And so when I was reading it, I'm like, maybe Kraus is wrong about Cody, but then he's not wrong about Cody. Cody sucks.
Cody sucks so fucking bad.
He's, he's literally like in probably like I don't want to say like top 5 worst. Let's say top 3 worst characters that isn't a white supremacist. How about that? Like he's just the
who are some
worst.
other two? There's like
I can't even think of the other 2, but Cody's
it's weird
definitely up
because
there.
this book has like extreme levels. I think he's the worst person within the bounds of polite society.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Because like you couldn't bring Jack. You couldn't bring
Yeah,
like
yeah. Like
any
I
of
couldn't pit
the
him
real
against
freaks
Jack
who are like
or
serial killers or whatever. He is
but
a dude
it's
who
like
just sucks on a normal, like believable, relatable level, and
he's
because he
just a
sucks
bad
in a
person.
relatable way, then we can see him and go like, ah, fuck you.
I think the thing that makes it worse is that he's not a natural cape either, and so he's like got no excuse
Dude, he
for
seems like
being
he'd
all
be a
fucked
natural
up.
cape by the end of this arc. He seems like that weird time he confronts Kraus in like a couple chapters, and he's just
Oh,
standing there like awkwardly in the intersection or like that's
yeah.
he's being like a
There
freak.
Yeah, he and Kraus are definitely cape-brained. Definitely the most of anyone in the group.
Luke and Oliver aren't very cape-brained, and Jess isn't really, but Marissa kind of is, and Noelle kind of is. Like, they're not
They kind of
super
are.
fighty,
Like,
but
I
like they
wouldn't.
both seem like people who could get powers naturally.
They're just kind of in the category of Parian and Brian, where they're like so on the low end compared to a lot of the other capes.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But like, yeah. Some of these characters are clearly ready for this.
yeah. They've trained all their lives for this. Cody specifically, he sucks. Anyway, I just think it's funny because when I was reading this chapter, every time Cody talked, I was like, Cody hasn't done anything wrong yet. Like he's just been totally like fine and reasonable. And like even right now, like because Kraus gets all mad, and he's like he says ease up, but like he doesn't say it with any aggression as far as like Kraus recognizes. He just says it.
Kraus is acting like a
um,
fucking freak at some of these parts too. Like I was saying, like he's being as bad as Cody gets later on.
yeah,
Like he's being
yeah.
so weird right now.
It's because he was like, I need everybody to understand how much I need Noel.
Yeah.
So Jess argues that they need to prioritize getting to safety rather than getting to a hospital, especially because they saw somebody get blown up just for being near the Seaberg for too long, and that's good enough for Kraus. So they come across another case 53. It's like a bloodied bobblehead guy, and he's like, "Help me!" He's like crawling to them and like begging for help. And Marissa's like, "How can I help you?" And he's like, "Feed me your memories." This
Yeah.
is literally so funny. So they all run away. And seemingly the Seamerg song is quieting. They're getting like away from the situation. But then they reach a barbed wire fence. And outside the fence are squads of soldiers and military equipment vehicles. And they say that the area is under quarantine, and if they approach the fence, they will be shot. Oh my gosh. And we forgot to change the art if you want to change it now
I
before
do
we
want to
keep
change it.
talking about
I
stuff.
thought about it earlier and then forgot by the time I was gonna jump in with it. But
Yeah, I had the
this is
same
my
thing.
the Seamerg.
Lussymer, so good. Um, I can't remember her name. But I was like, oh, when you were like, oh, I need references for people, I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to think of any references. And then I immediately was like,
Tilda
what about
Swinton.
that lady that they have to play all of the like craziest looking people and everything?
What about that woman who looks just like David Bowie? You said.
What about that hot lady in Narnia?
I I was looking at all these reference images, or like trying to find one of her like with a neutral face, and I almost
Mhm.
pulled up Bowie instead because I realized they have nearly identical bone
Have the
structure
same
and
face
eyes.
for sure.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and because they're both kind of like androgynous, then they
Hmm.
both look like equally masc and femme. Like, I don't know, it's they're legends.
Yeah, she's so cool. 2 + 4 × 5 said, uh, what were we looking at? I had all these precise calculations, but they were thrown off by Oliver. Well, technically, 0 to an algebraic expression won't change the equation.
Fucking
And
roasted.
then in terms of people who suck but aren't like evil, you forgot Greg, the geek from Arc 2 or whatever. Yeah, but he doesn't
Hang
do
on.
anything
This is
that
this
bad.
is some Greg slander. I don't think Greg is on
Listen,
Cody's level.
listen, Greg is not on Cody's level. Greg does like
Greg's not even as
one
bad as
sus
Kraus.
thing.
He's like a shit on the
He-
internet. He does kind of suck.
yeah, he and like the shit on the internet thing that he does is like he he like misinterprets somebody as a catfish and then is like mad about it. So like that's not that bad,
Dude,
right?
he's so cringe on
Um
the internet. He makes me want to never read another post. But
And then 2 plus 4 times 5 says needs more wings. JK, her face looks exactly inhuman enough to straddle the uncanny valley. Yeah, I love her like empty eyes. Nice art. Yeah, great job with these.
Thank you, thank you. I was
Let's
concerned before I started that it would be less doable than it was.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a yeah, like definitely starting with a grid method is like a really, really good way to start portraits. If you're not like honestly the best way to start portraits is to start by tracing. Controversial opinion.
Hmm.
But like
That wouldn't bother me. I used to use a
if you
light
were
box when I did a lot of drawing.
oh yeah, and like the thing
These were
is the
freehand,
like
but
the best technique is to like trace silhouettes and then to recreate those same silhouettes on your own and do that over and over and over until you can like do it yourself. So
hmm.
yeah, but if you don't have a light box or whatever, or you're not doing it digitally, then grid method is super great.
I wanted to pull it back to Greg's comment about Oliver's cape name should be Mr. Cellophane. I thought it was double funny because you looked right through that comment, just like we would look right through Mr. Cellophane.
Oh my gosh, I did miss it.
Also, if you haven't heard
I
that song, it is a classic from a musical, and I love it.
yeah, I'll check it out. Oh Oliver. What a good chapter, but oh my gosh, I like literally am pretty sure I was like halfway through this chapter and then I was like Oliver and I had to go back and edit my first chapter rewrite.
When I was deciding on, so the art was like us talking about it and me going like, oh no, I'll have to do the art. And then I re-listened to the chapters and I thought to myself like, I don't want Kraus to just be the first one. I don't want to like blow all the characters right at the start. I want them to actually kind of
Hmm.
fit. And somehow in my mind, before I re-listened to the chapters, everything was drawn out a bit more. And like, I thought that scene where Jess and Kraus talk was in 17.2. Um, and so I was like, who will be the first chapter? But then when that was in the first one, I was like, oh, just Jess, definitely.
Yeah.
Best one.
Yeah. Maybe you had the same problem I had where you had imagined there was other stuff. Like I literally thought like half of one of the chapters was them playing this game. But I guess I'm crazy.
No, there will be, not in this arc, there will be a Noelle chapter, and she will relive gaming.
Okay,
But
okay. That
that's because
must have been
she's the
it
true
then.
gamer. Like, none of the rest of
Yeah,
these
because she
people are
cares
real
about gaming.
gamers like her.
Listen, okay, Kraus would have talked about the game if he had played it, but they didn't get to.
I don't know. I don't know.
Something got in the way of them playing their game, okay? It's not his fault. Kraus, hashtag Kraus did nothing wrong. Speaking of Kraus, let's talk about Kraus as a character. I pulled a couple of quotes I want to go over. I'm not gonna read them
I
all,
wish
but
there was a better way to abbreviate cash because I don't think the J does it. And the S certainly doesn't
I
do it.
me and Cam, and by me and Cam, I mean mostly me, have created an alternate alphabet where all the letters actually make sense, and there is a letter specifically for the sound
J.
that you say when you say cash and sketch and things like that. No, because I can never write it out and it makes me angry because I often want to say cash, like if somebody's like asking about a situation and I want to say like just cash or like just dress cash or something.
There's
Is that
stuff that I
not
say out
normal?
loud that like I don't know how to frame it in typing, so I literally just don't. So my lexicon is really different.
Yeah. So I will share the alphabet with you. It is very good.
Yeah.
Um, it's much better than the one that we currently have.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Kraus, he's got a real casual relationship with his mom. Pretty cool. I pulled this line specifically. I think It says something about him. I think that he's a little bit deluded, but he says he should have felt bad about the awkwardness of having his luggage here, getting in people's way as they got on the bus, but he didn't. A part of him thrived on being annoying. He liked to think it nourished him. I don't really take that at face value, personally. I don't know about you.
I think that that is a way for him to justify to himself actions
Hope.
that he's already taken, and then because he's saying this to himself, he continues to play into it. I think it's like
Yeah.
a terrible cycle that he has put himself into.
I think it has more to do. I'm gonna actually probably maybe do a little bit of more psychoanalysis than I usually do on the people in this chapter. I want to talk about their schemas.
Schemas? Yeah.
Um, I love schemas, and I think that this is a reaction that he's having to one of his schemas. Whether it's like a I'm better than other people or I'm ostracized in some way kind of schema. I think that it could definitely be that. Like there's one that's just I'm different than other people. Um, People will just feel like different and ostracized and not feel like one when they're in a community. And I kind of feel like that's accurate. I don't think he ever, even like with
Well,
all
he
these
never
friends
thinks
around,
about having
and
had a past friend group. He never thinks about
yeah,
friends that he used to have. He knows Marissa. He's kind of friends with Luke. Like,
yeah,
he just doesn't really have a lot of like connection. And I know there are a
mm,
lot of people like that, but I almost like because I've always had like a crew, because I've always had a group no matter what age, like
hmm.
I just don't I can't even like fathom what it would be like to grow up without any friends.
Oh,
Um
it's really sad.
yeah, I know it's sad.
It's not, I mean, it's not, it was like literally startling to me when I got my first friend group. Like, I had never experienced anything like it. It was like really, I don't know. It's like incredibly different. And I do think like that's part of what he's going through is that he's like never had a friend group before. And it's like simultaneously like overwhelming, but he also is not feeling like a part of it in a way that he should.
And the group is weird because it's not like there's like so little total cohesion or whatever. Like the
Hmm.
game keeps them together, but if you think about it, like Marissa is strongly tied to Chris and Noelle, and weakly tied to Kraus. Noelle is strongly tied to Marissa and now Kraus, and medium connected to Cody, who's also interested in her. Um,
Hmm.
like Luke is medium connected to all of them. Cody is strong connected to Noelle and medium connected to like Luke and uh, probably Marissa. But it's like I don't know. In my friend groups, I just feel like there's more to it almost. Like if there's no nucleus, there's at least more like total connections that are like matter. But if you took away this game and sent them to school the next day, like they wouldn't hang out as a group. They would be
Yeah.
like most
They,
of them would
I think
individually
they hang
atomize
out.
away.
Yeah, I think it's like a situation in which if they were in like classes together, then they would just spend time with that person in that class.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not like all like getting together to hang out in between classes and go to lunch and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so oh, 2 + 4 × 5 said, on the other hand, I don't say lol out loud. Try doing that once, never again.
I feel like
Lol.
I ironically said it out loud many times. Lol.
I do say lol, but rather than lol. Um,
Oh, I make it awful.
I we already talked about him finishing his shopping in September. I can't even think about it again, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about him um and his like vaguely thinking that he and Jess would be a good match. And then he also like he honestly like kind of didn't even consider Marissa because she's so hot, and like that's the same situation that everybody else was in.
Which, this
Um,
is another situation of like, um, we see from their interactions later, like she kind of like dismisses him in some ways because of his like continued being Kraus. But like,
mhm.
if he were to get like, I don't know, 10% more serious and then just
And
like
10% more
be
hot.
I was gonna say, and just like be nice to Marissa for a while. I just feel like they already kind of have like a weird rapport because they used to know each other and get paired up when they were younger. She
I
seems
don't
like
know
really
if
comfortable
he
around him, if I'm being honest. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if he necessarily like uh, is rude to Marissa in this chapter in the way that he's like kind of rude to Jess and like the other guys. Um, he like kind of I don't think they talk to each other in this chapter, honestly. He you know what he does is he compliments Marissa a lot on her gaming. So he kind of is really nice to he is nice to her in that way. But he also I don't think that's something that he would like be mean about to anybody but Cody because I think he hates Cody.
I think he also like he thinks that Oliver is a worse gamer than Cody, but he would never call out Oliver for being bad at games.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's hard to say like how their dynamic is. I do get like the sense like I have family friends like this. Like they have just been they've just been next to me a lot. And we're not friends. I wouldn't do it or say anything rude to them.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just like weird. Like the vibes I get from this whole arc are like he would make a decent match with either of the two, and I think that they could help him in different ways, sort of like straighten himself out, and like be less of an asshole, basically. But I think that Noelle is like the worst possible case for both of them, where like I think his obsession with Noelle is like keeping him in this weird emotional limbo, and he's convinced himself I don't need X, Y, and Z, but is really like, I mean, all the times when he says he's fine with them not like touching or kissing or whatever, I don't think he's
Mhm.
lying like intentionally, but I think he's
No,
convinced himself of something that isn't true.
I I think that the problem more is that when Kraus is with Noel, he and this is like my my personal opinion because I don't I think like most people do not prioritize or even think about self-improvement in the way that I do. But I think the problem is when he's with Noelle, his self-improvement is totally tunneled towards her and everything else is lying to the wayside. And so I don't think he would ever improve anything in any other aspect of his life unless Noel specifically wanted him to. And I think if he were with Jess, that wouldn't be the case. I think he would be able to focus on himself. And I think that Jess could, in a casual way, be like, "You're kind of an asshole. You should stop doing this." And he would think about it and do it not because Jess told it, like Jess would have pointed it out and brought attention to it, but he would be doing it on less like, oh, I need to change this thing because Jess told me to. I need to fix
Yeah,
this thing because
because
Jess told me to and she'll like me more.
the person he is with Noelle, in my opinion, in all the interactions we see, is an inauthentic version of himself. He's so
Hmm.
guarded. He has so much trouble like being real with her. Um,
I don't agree with that. I think it's a different facet of himself, but that my problem is that that facet is like only aimed towards her and he's like unable to integrate it into the rest of his personality.
we
Um
miss saying goodbye
and
to Vale, I think, but
unwilling to.
goodbye to Vale for now.
Yeah, goodbye, Vale. But that's how it comes off to me, at least.
I guess I guess this is, yeah, we have like a reasonably different interpretation of that, cuz like I just felt like he's not lying about anything when he's with Noelle. He's like just pushing himself really hard in a really inorganic way to smooth out any rough edges on any conversations and anything like that. So like
Mhm.
there's just something about the way that he's moving through the conversation where he has to really like not show himself, because it's like he knows that she wouldn't like the version of him that he normally acts like when she's not in the room.
Yeah, and the fact that like he has to be so hyper vigilant and paying attention so much to her needs and disregarding his own needs is like going to I think in the long run it's going to manifest lots of bad things on Krause's on Krause's side. He's not going to be able to do very well in his life with the way that things are going.
Yeah, yeah. I just I think like regardless of the like them getting through pulled through a portal, like let's just say that never happens and he gets
Mhm.
on the team, like maybe things stabilize between them if there's no like negative external pressures. But I almost feel like when Noelle like sort of is able to do right by herself, she won't match with Kraus anymore if he doesn't majorly change. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think she'd be irritated with him. I think that she'd be like, "You only do things for me." Nobody likes being with somebody who only does things for them, who like only like lives their whole life revolving around them. It's overwhelming and unhealthy and like puts a lot of pressure on
Like I already feel
the
like one of the
person
biggest
who's being
problems
revolved
for
around.
Noelle is that exact thing. She feels so much pressure from Kraus, and when he's like, we'll see a flashback in a couple chapters where he's like, if you just say to me that we're not a good match, then we can end it right here. And it's like he is forcing her into this weird like situation where it's like she's not going to say that because she also doesn't believe that, but she can't talk to you about her real problems, and it's anti helping her to be with you. It's like it's
Yeah.
this whole like messed up loop where he just uses that like her inability to hurt him to keep her on the hook, I guess. I don't know. It's not that I think
Yeah.
anything he does is like
I
calculated
don't
in a
think it's
bad way or anything. It's just like he can't see what he's doing. He can't understand how trapped she feels because of him.
he just has the type of logic that some people have where they it's like I guess it's a little bit like Amy logic where you have like a if A then B, if B then C. And if the person can't disprove that specific piece of logic, then they're unable to get out of the thought process. Because she can present new evidence like, but if D then E, and he's like, yeah, but that doesn't affect A, B, and C. So and you know, it leads to problems.
Yeah.
Like that discussion because he can't understand what else would be important, and that's like the discussion they have earlier. I do think Noelle is like incorrect in like her like the premise that she's insecure about the relationship because they're not doing quote unquote relationship things, like they don't have any physical connection yet, that I think is faulted, and I do agree with that. But he's unable to see the bigger picture,
Even if
like
that's like a faulty premise,
despite all that.
because she believes it, it's very real. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, because she believes that there's a problem and she can't get past that problem on her own, even if he, as many times as he says, but we have a connection, we have a connection, we have a connection. And that is the premise that he's running on for their relationship is their connection and their enjoyment of each other. And he's not recognizing that there's more to a relationship than that.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have anything to say about Noelle as well?
Yes, I
Noelle
do.
has a problem.
I feel like I have
That
met several Noels in my life of like people who they have like these social or emotional problems that they feel like they can't talk about, and so it becomes so big that it's like both all encompassing. It's like a sun that you're drawn toward and can't look at, and because you can't explain that it's up there, then you like there's this big disconnect and nobody understands you. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, and she is in, oh, I was gonna say she's in group therapy, but she's not in group therapy. She's in single therapy. But she has Marissa because I think Marissa gets to the same therapist or something. So like
Yeah.
that's good. Thank God, because if Marissa hadn't like forced herself into this situation, there Noelle wouldn't have had anybody. And I don't think, and like you said, Noelle's like one of those people who's like so like insecure and deeply pulled into their problems that I don't think that she is probably able to talk frankly with a therapist either.
One thing I was
Two
gonna
plus
say,
four
like,
times.
I think that group therapy would be really valuable to her,
I think
probably
it
for
would
the
be
same
better for
reason that,
Noelle specifically.
yeah, because it would force the issue in a relatively safe environment of her expressing her real problems, like the
Hmm.
problems that she doesn't, of her staring into the sun for a second and like acknowledging that it's there or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that her being surrounded by people with similar problems would really help her to open up because I think that Marissa, the way that I gauge Marissa, there's like honestly no evidence towards this, but I think that Marissa has this had the same problem and is recovered, but like she's too far down like her path that she's not able to like relate to Noelle in the way that Noelle needs somebody to relate to her right now. And so she's like as much help as she should not be the only person involved in that. Like Noelle should be surrounded by people. I mean, she should be surrounded by all kinds of people. She should be surrounded by like obviously a much bigger support network than she has, but also people who are at all different like points in their journey, I think would probably be what's best for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Noelle. And Kraus, I totally doubt Kraus. He's like, I have a good idea of what's going on with Noelle. I don't think he does. I think that and I'm trying to figure out what he thinks is going on.
That's another thing is like I I know that like it probably seems it's probably it almost seems like it's beating you over the head with it, but like I feel like I didn't know what Noelle's deal was until I saw her actual interlude. Um
Mm,
I wasn't good at
yeah.
picking up on it from the outside. Um
Yeah, and that's the thing is like most people aren't going to be able to pick up on it unless it's something that they have like gone through specifically.
well, it's also like
Um,
I feel like I should have been able to figure it out better because like I literally have food problems and like have a lot of the
mhm.
same, but mine are much closer to like Victoria Dallin at the end of Ward being like, "Oh, I can't eat this chicken, it's gross," and then having to like reason with herself like, "No, it's actually perfectly normal, and you're just acting crazy right now."
Yeah, I think like this is a bit more specific. I also I don't know, Marissa. That's why it comes off to me like Marissa had similar problems and is recovered. Well, honestly,
I thought
I
Marissa's
think
problems
Marissa
probably had
worse
directly
from
to do
her
with her mom.
mother. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I had
that
never thought
Marissa.
that. I mean, it's interesting, but I had never had that
Yeah,
thought that she had the
my
same.
head canon is like Marissa's mom was like being really, really controlling over her like food and her diet, or not even maybe being controlling over her food, but like you need to stay in shape, you need to make sure you're doing this and that, and then like Marissa like pushed into it until like she went to therapy and recovered. So even she was like although she had enough like information and like experience with it that she was able to pick up on Noelle's issues, like she hers was so much more externally based, um rather than like the issues that Noelle was having, which are more like body image based.
Yeah,
So
I
I
don't know if there's some external factor, but it felt much more like Noelle's problems are just kind of her own, and they didn't stem from like a specific
it's because
thing.
Jess introduced her to Tumblr and things went down from there.
She started diagnosing herself with all sorts of things on Tumblr. It was terrible.
Dude, Tumblr has caused I don't I 1000% believe this. Tumblr has caused a huge percentage of eating disorders that have happened in the last 10 years.
Oh Lord.
Directly. I directly blame Tumblr, but it's okay. You know what? The benefits of all the Sherlock gifts worth it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what you have to weigh is one side Sherlock gifts, and the other side
Is
all of the bad things. Which,
all of the bad
depending
things
on
that have
how you feel, might also be Sherlock gifts on the other side.
all that is to say, I think that Kraus is full of shit, and I have no idea what he thinks is going on because I don't think that he is. I don't think that he's picked up on this. I don't think that he's noticed. I mean, not that he hasn't noticed because of him like being negligent, just because it's something that's really difficult for people to notice.
Yeah, and it's like I say, like even if you have similar but slightly different issues, you might not realize. And
Hmm.
I don't know. The way that people treat food issues, the way that people treat me about my food issues is like, oh, you stupid child, you baby, I can't believe you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, great, this is really helpful. It really helps people to get over their mental issues when you belittle the mental issues.
Yeah. Not ideal.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about Noelle. She agrees that Kraus is a probationary boyfriend and that she likes him.
Probationary. Yeah.
Probationary, which is which is funny. Which is really funny. That it's mostly funny because it's such a me move. Like the Noelle Kraus dynamic. It was like so me in high school. I wasn't specifically either one of them, but like I feel like I was making a lot of the same like dumbass relationship decisions. I remember specifically me and I had a probationary boyfriend girlfriend relationship where I don't know why it was probationary. We like literally got together and we had both written pros and cons lists and we like read our pros and cons
I'm going to
lists.
tell you how you know you're a match. You both write pros and goddamn cons.
I know. I like really embarrassing. But we were like, let's discuss this. And we both wrote a pros and cons list. I don't think it was a good match because why are we so crazy? Um, but I just find the like stupid ass like the stupid little things like that, like calling it a probationary boyfriend girlfriend, which is like that's the same thing, but he's like trying to lessen the blow. He's like trying to make it seem less serious and like looming so that she doesn't feel so intimidated. Um, and I don't know, it's just very teenagery. I get it.
He's like walking up to a stray cat and like, ooh, ooh, ooh,
Yeah.
come here, come here.
Come here. It's okay. I won't steal you. I
And
won't
then he
swoop you up and
scoops her
try to
up.
marry you. And then he
Um,
scoops her up and tries to marry her. God damn it, Kraus.
I gotta say, it's hard to define in like the aspect, but like I feel like I relate a lot to Kraus, not in his weird relationship to Noelle per se, but in like the general like I don't know the way he gets stuck to Noelle in terms of like I don't think that he's like I don't think that it had to be Noelle. I think that he just was convinced that he needed to like go out with someone and that would like help him out and like make him happy, and he picked Noelle and then got slightly down the road and is just like, you know, becoming more and more mentally all in for that. So like I that's why I interpret it that way, because it's like, yeah, that tracks with like teenage angst about being alone and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But then
Something else I want to.
Mhm.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say then the more directly relatable part to me is kind of his mean spirited like inner monologue. Like, I mean, we've talked about it. I was pretty mean as a teen. Not the greatest.
Oh yeah.
So
It's really relatable. And the fact that he's mean in a way that doesn't reflect his inner monologue is really funny too.
yeah, it's like he's
Like
still
the
mean
things
out loud, but he doesn't say the things that are in his head that are like pretty
that would
fucking
be like
rude.
most hurtful.
He just
Yeah.
like he says other rude stuff and he's like kind of over the top, but I don't think that he hurts people's feelings nearly as much as if he just like just said whatever he thought. That'd be pretty fucked up if
Yeah. At least he's doing that, I guess. Something I was not gonna say, but I am gonna say it. I wasn't gonna say it because it's Kraus slander, and I stand Kraus.
mm-hmm.
But another like very very teenagery aspect, and something that like makes me uncomfortable because of how like close it is to like my situation. It's not anymore, but definitely like in middle school and high school.
Right.
Part of the reason he goes after Noelle is because of her lack of confidence and more normie vibes.
Yeah,
And
you always had told me that like you have this like internal thing where it's like screams like, "Ah, what are you trying to do?" Like you think that they're like
I can feel it specifically when it's happening though, because there's sometimes it's normal and sometimes this is happening where I feel I've been targeted because somebody has decided that I am not intimidating in those ways, and it makes it fills me with fury.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I feel like Noelle picks up on those vibes. Like it could feel to her like people are preying on, because they've only mentioned two people, but I think that like maybe like Luke or Oliver had also expressed interest in her, but that they like
Well, it's
didn't like
weird.
pursue it really.
Like the way that Krauss frames it in his mind is like she was the
Like
one that we
everyone
were
wants
all
Noelle.
interested in, and Cody had asked her out or whatever. But like I I guess I didn't see anything past or present where Luke seems interested in Noelle, I guess. He sees her as
Yeah,
like a
maybe it's
useful
not.
team captain and then later as like a huge burden on him, but never like a former love interest.
Yeah, maybe it's not. Like maybe it was just him and Cody. But it's like in her position, she could be feeling like she's like being targeted because she obviously knows she's insecure. Like she knows that she's coming off in this like more meek and like powerless way compared to people like Marissa and Jess. And so like I don't know, I get it. But I also am like him specifically saying, he says, Noelle, oddly enough, had been the girl they fought over the most. It was odd because she didn't have Marissa's head-turning beauty or Jess's confidence. It made her approachable in a strange way, up until the point where Noelle had shut down any and all advances.
Yeah,
So,
I
like,
mean, like, it's something that when you describe it about yourself, like, I obviously recognize that as a behavior of, like, people. And like when you frame this in those terms, like it makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
I do think that whether or not it's like stated in the text, that is a
Yeah.
completely plausible
It,
read.
it's like this and like this isn't true anymore. Like anything that I feel about this now is just like me getting me being like stuck in my teenage brain, but absolutely teenage boys have this thing, and maybe not just teenage boys, like maybe other people too, but they are looking for somebody that they think that they can succeed with, and so it can like feel really targeted for when they're going after people who have low confidence and like haven't maybe like grown into their looks yet, because it's like she's like very beautiful, but she is like covering up a lot and like not like wanting people to look at her that way. And so she's like, I don't know. It feels targeted.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's another one of those things where like he would not be able to identify in himself that he had done that, despite the fact that he literally thought that led you to that conclusion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he literally was like, she's not confident and she's not head turningly beautiful. So she's approachable. Those are literally the words that he uses.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that he can simultaneously think that and still not realize what he's doing.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
amount that
exactly.
people cannot realize what they're doing is incredibly high.
Astounding.
Yeah. Um. Although I think we can move on to Marissa, unless you've got more Noelle thoughts.
Marissa, I originally was like, Marissa is beta,
Mars is a
but
beta, and I think she's a cuck. I am Victoria right now.
but but I've changed my mind
You
on
don't think
Marissa
she's a beta anymore?
in these chapters, because everyone else is running for their lives and she keeps turning around and being like, "Can I help you? Person with superpowers, can I help you? Bobblehead monster who's bleeding out on the ground." And I respect that. I think that takes like the kind of like selfless bravery that is like it's like has to be so innate to somebody to be overriding their fear responses and their survival responses.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, but I agree with that. I I think that she wasn't suited to be a cape ever, really. Even
No.
if she's the type of person who I think may have gotten, like, may have been a parahuman naturally. Um, she just, she's not that way, you know?
No. Yeah.
And I, aside from jokingly calling her a beta, I don't actually think she's a beta. I just think that she's not a violent person.
I've definitely called her a beta lots of times because
Oh, yeah.
she's
And because
definitely a
of you, I've
beta.
done it too.
She's definitely a beta by the time she's gotten to Taylor. But like that's just because she's been like so burnt out and run down. And I recognize that now that she was not always beta material.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I also, I was gonna say, since she's not a beta back in these older portions, what comes before a software beta? An alpha.
An alpha? No, she's not an alpha. It's not true. It's not true.
She's just pre-beta. She's pre-beta.
She's pre-beta.
She'll be one later. Um, I think she's great, but we will
Marissa,
talk about her a lot more. Well, yeah. What do you?
yeah, they also mention a couple times
Mhm.
Marissa's mom, and they call her the mega bitch.
Yeah, and Luke's
And she,
calling her that, and he is generally a slightly more serious guy than Kraus. So.
yeah, so she's like, like I feel like it's very easy to tell, like what kind of mom she has. Like she's got like a narcissistic, when I say narcissistic, I mean actually narcissistic, like dance moms kind of mom. Um, and
I thought to
she's
myself, like, if she had gotten an eating disorder, like you were thinking, then when you were talking about that, I was thinking of Deborah McCurdy.
yeah, yeah, very much like that. I those are the vibes I'm getting. just really like controlling. Even Krause's mom, when she's like, "Who's on the team?" and he's like, "Oh, it's
Mrs.
Marissa," and
Mulan's daughter. Yeah.
she's like, "The mega bitch's mom." she, she doesn't call her the mega bitch, but she definitely meant it. Like
Yeah, let me see how she says it. It's
she like makes a sour face or something because like nobody likes this lady. They know that she is a bad person.
yeah, yeah. Let's see, who no. Damn it. I'm trying to find in their
It's like
conversation.
right at the top.
Yeah. Because she says something like "who else," but that's not the words, because when I control finded that, it didn't find it. Oh, I bet when they're talking about who makes money, that'll be a good way to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna make money. Dissembling. Sounds too good to be. Okay, and just who is us? Then it gets to Mrs. Newland's daughter, and then she goes, "Oh, lovely."
Yeah, she like has the assumption that like this lady sucks so bad that she's like her daughter's gotta suck too.
Man, that's a
So
real
yeah,
sins of the father attitude.
Marissa's been going through it, but she's like she's like confident enough to be able to handle herself. It seems like she's kind of like overcome
But
whatever
she
hurdles
needed
she was going
to
through with
like
her mom.
get to that place because
Mhm.
like I don't think I think that there was a point when she was still starting therapy and stuff when like she was completely unconfident and like broken down by her mom in many ways and
Mhm.
couldn't find any relief from her problems. So
Yeah. That's the other reason because I had also been trying to figure out why a mega bitch would let their daughter go to therapy. Because that is not something that most of those kinds of people would do. And I think that a great reason is, oh, you have all these unhealthy eating habits that you got all on your own. Uh, and it's
yeah.
affecting your dancing career. So now you have to go to therapy, you dumb shit.
Well, the way it's
Those are the
framed at
vibes I
this,
get.
yeah, the way it's framed at the start is, or not the start, but at the point when she's talking about it in a couple chapters, is that she says like when I was starting therapy, my mom would sit in on every session, which completely
Hmm.
defeated the point. So it's like
Yeah.
she's only agreeing to allow her out of like into this scenario when she's not actually out of her sight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Total mega bitch. You want to talk about Jess?
I do want to talk about Jess. Jess is my favorite character out of this set, and Marissa's the next second. She's my second favorite. So those are our top two. Um, Jess is cooler than the rest of them. Uh, I don't
Yeah,
know.
she's got drip, dude.
She's got drip, but it's also like the way that she like handles conversations. I just think that she's the most like
She's the most mature, for
yeah,
sure.
that's a good way to put it. She's the most mature, I think. Um she can casually talk like she's a grown up, but she's not a grown up.
Yeah. Um, yeah. She's a hip geek. She knows all about this stuff. About the Seamerg and Scion and trigger. She like starts describing trigger events as well. Um, I don't know what else to say about that. It's just interesting. And it helps give the other members exposition when they need it.
I feel bad. I feel like I literally have less to say about her because I like her more.
Because everything you do, you're like, haha, Jess. She's funny. She's just kind of like a, I don't know. She's just like we said, she's more mature, so she's kind of like in a place in her life where she has gotten past hopefully had gotten past like the teenage problems that you have and like maybe hasn't fully formed herself as an adult yet.
Yeah, her weird like pseudo negative interactions with Taylor that we've already seen in the story up to now are like they
Mm.
feel worse because it's um like I want them to be friends. I think that Jess and Taylor should be friends, and
Mhm.
it just bums me out that they're not.
Yeah, it hurts my feelings when, well, it always hurts my feelings when Taylor is mean to my faves, and she's always mean to all my faves.
She's not mean to Jess. In fact, she is as hurt as I am by
Yeah,
Genesis
yeah,
not
that's true. That's
giving
true.
her friend love. She's like,
It's
but
it's like when
why no for
Amy's being mean
me?
to her. She's like, I don't really understand what I did to Jess. Every time she's talking to her, she's like, I don't understand why she's upset at me. I don't get it. Um, what else was I gonna say about Jess? She psychoanalyzes people. Icon, I get it. Like she just like whips out some major opinions she has about Kraus. I want to see what exactly she says because she says more than what I had pulled out before they are on the elevator. She also like she takes his like the his really ableist comments at the beginning in stride, and I think this is why, because she like sees him like putting jabs on her, and she's like, oh, like he's insecure right now or whatever. She can kind of like
I feel like she's
mm,
mature in a
justify
similar
it,
way to
I
like
guess.
kind of the way that you are when we're interacting with
Yeah, Jess
certain
is kind
people.
of me.
It's just that like you are able to see beyond a situation in a way that most people can't, where you're like actually understanding why somebody's doing a thing, I guess.
Yeah, I spend the majority of my time trying to figure out and thinking about why other people are doing what they're doing. Like, I mean, literally the majority of my brain is going to that. Oh, here's what she says. She says, she says, you must be nervous. Never, he smirked. See, I have you figured out. You have a tell when you're lying. Sure, the more overconfident you act, the more nervous you are. And when you're feeling down, you poke at people, provoke them. I think you get some validation out of it. Like you can test people and they're still your friends after. You can feel confident in that friendship. And then he like is
Oh,
like, you must
seems
have a
like you
crush
spend
on
a lot of
me.
time thinking about me. Maybe a little bit of a crush there, eh? Unrequited love.
Which is a totally reasonable response to that, because she does just read him the filth right there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that's like why it's on her mind or whatever, because I can only hope that he is not as disrespectful to her as he was for like those 3 lines or whatever in that scene where he's like, I don't see why we should have to make any changes for Jess. She wants to be treated like everybody else. And she's like, you're an idiot. And he's like, you're a cripple.
Well, he's got that sort of terrible attitude that it's like he's doing the handicapped version of the I'm colorblind. Race shouldn't matter.
Yeah. And the thing is, he's doing it specifically because of something she said. I feel like maybe he would be more considerate if she'd been like, can you guys please be more like make sure that if she hadn't gone out and said, I want to be treated like everybody else, I don't think that he would be acting like such an asshole right here.
I don't even think we should consider whether or not someone's a woman when we're hiring.
Yeah, exactly.
He
He's
would
just
totally
having
say all
like
that
one of
shit.
those. And if this took place in our Lord's year of 2024, absolutely heinous. He would go to hell. But I recognize this is 2009 and this is a little bit more on par with the culture at the time.
Yeah, yeah. Not very
We've we've
conscientious.
come we've come a long way. I
In
feel I
some
feel like
ways.
sometimes I forget about like how fucking crazy the world was. Like
Oh, and
only
I know,
whatever you
like,
said 15 years ago.
when we were sort of first becoming friends, I felt the age gap between myself and then the people your age, because like their idea of the world started much later than mine. And
Yeah.
so when it's like, and it had a lot to do with like queer representation, mostly is like what we were having the conversations about. And it's
Hmm.
just like, I don't know. I'm always going back to this like weird conversation we had about these Ian M. Banks culture novels, the first two,
Hmm.
and like a particular thing where there's a lot of trans people in the culture novels, like a lot of trans people, and our friends thought, oh, this straight guy is using this as a gimmick, but to me, it's like, can't you tell that his self-insert character is the girl? It's Balveda. Like, I think that Ian
Yeah.
M. Banks was trans in an era where you could not be trans.
And nobody was using trans people as a gimmick back then because there would be no appeal. Like there would be no mass appeal to that, even I feel like even in queer spaces, because trans people were not like accepted by a lot of other like gay, bisexual, lesbian people at the time. I feel. I don't know, I'm saying a lot, but
No, I mean, I think you're right, because I mean, even now, it's like, we've been talking about it more and more, but I talk about the gay men who are not allies, because they have
yeah,
like straight white man privilege almost, because gayness is like
yeah,
more accepted. And it's just like,
and lots of turfs.
as long as they stick into their lane, then it's like people will treat them nicely enough and not say anything to their face. And so they think they're in the in crowd and they think they have like a solidified whatever. But it's like, nah, dog, when they take away the rights of the other people, like, you're next.
You're next, yeah. Yeah.
I know that you still
So
don't want to
I
acknowledge bi people, gay man.
this is not to dismiss the ableism that Krauss does, but I do think that Krauss is
Oh,
a
it's
product of his culture.
yeah, it's not great. I think even at the time, the other characters thought he was an asshole.
No, the other characters are like, shut the fuck up, dude. That's like really horrible to say. But I think now it's like you would never talk to that person again. If somebody spoke like that to you, like that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, 2 + 4 × 5 asked if we had already done the audience participation questions. No, no,
Oh my
no.
gosh.
You didn't mace it while spacing out. And then Greg
I know.
corrected that we haven't. But we're just going on and on.
We're just going on and on. We're not even halfway through our list. Look, I don't have anything to say about Luke. He's some guy. He's pretty cool.
He's
He's got a good head on his shoulders.
he's medium cool.
Yeah, he's there. Um, I really like the little moment he and Kraus have at the beginning where they do a fist bump, and then Kraus is like, "I'm so embarrassed."
Yeah, yeah.
He's like embarrassed that he did something so like
Stereotypically
preppy,
cool.
stereotypically cool is what he says. Yeah, it's very funny, very cute.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, I just thought of like the character class when you clash when you said preppy. I was thinking of he's like it's like an oil and water situation between Victoria and Kraus. I don't think they ever really interact, but I can see them not getting on well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They'd be terrible.
It would be terrible. It'd be like way worse than Rain.
Yeah, he's the rain that she actually does throw off a building.
Yeah, so so bad.
But
Um,
Luke,
I
okay,
don't.
let me think. Luke is, I think he's like he should be the leader. He would be like a good backbone to the group if he hadn't
Literally
like
was
hurt
like
his
what
leg right
he's
away.
obvious. Yeah, he's like obviously the like glue of the friendship aspect of the group, although Noelle is the leader. Um,
I think
but like he's
the way he interacts with Cody shows me that he has more like cachet, like social cachet with. with them, I guess. Because, like, I don't think that just any character in that scene could have talked down Cody. I think possibly only Luke, maybe, like, Noelle.
Yeah. I think that Luke is, like, cool enough that they just all respect him.
Also, it seems like he could beat up the other guys, so, like, there's that. You know, they are still just teenagers.
I don't really have anything to say about him, honestly.
Weirdly little to say, but we will talk about him more in the next couple weeks to make up for how little we had to say this time. Cody.
Cody sucks, but he hasn't displayed it properly yet. I think that the anger reaction that he has at the beginning of, like, them entering the apartment was kind of all reasonable. And
he
then
seems a
everything
little
after
petulant,
that,
and then, like, in 17.2 he's very normal and reasonable.
he's like super, like, focused on just, like, survival, so he, like, doesn't have time to be the worst piece of shit that you've ever met, I guess.
I don't know if he's, like, so the Simurgh is, like, twisting them in certain ways. I don't know if he's, like, it just seems like he's, like, a normal level of like, shitty teenager, and then she turns him worse. Maybe I'm misreading that, but it feels like there's such an amp up from what happened before to what will happen in the next few chapters.
I think that, yeah, it was, like, Simurgh, not like she did anything specifically, but, like, she puts the
mental pressure of being in this
place.
situation is,
like, she makes the perfect concoction for him to become the worst version of himself. In, like, not even the worst version of himself, just, like, he pushes it further than that. I feel like he becomes not a different person, but he, like, has character development, and it's not good.
Yeah. He has that negative character development or whatever, where he
has a lot of realizations. Oh, but he did say all this stuff about, like, Kraus dating Noelle to get on the team, and
like, that stuff he's already said in these chapters. Yeah,
he called them a creep, and which to me is, like, a strong accusation.
He's manipulating you. He's a slimy creep. And you know this is exactly why he's dating Noelle. Or don't you find it a little suspicious that they started dating almost right after we voted her captain?
Yeah, that is, like, insane.
Bro, your cause of events chain is backwards.
Vale said, "Are you still live?" Yeah, we're live. I finished dinner, watched an episode of Andor.
Dude, a significant arm twisting. I don't think that's a fair characterization. And I'm will say,
completely required to watch this great show. Sigh.
I will say that I on our media trade completed within days completed the first of the 3 books that I was to read, which was it wasn't Cloak of Deception. It was by the same author, and that's why I read Cloak of Deception. It was Labyrinth of Evil. That's what it was. And Labyrinth of Evil, pretty cool.
When I say Oliver does absolutely nothing this chapter, these 2 chapters, I'm serious. Okay, so we'll skip him and we'll come back to him in later weeks.
Oh, wait, hang on. I wanna find all the Olivers, because he does get mentioned.
He gets a description. He's ugly. He's pear-shaped, and he has a bowl cut.
Chris and Oliver standing outside the door, so they're avoiding the thing. Oliver gets described.
That's it. He doesn't say anything or do anything.
He helps Mars and Luke set up the furniture to do the ladders. He keeps helping Luke do things. He gets called a second stringer. Yeah, he does a lot of the little things, basically. Like, throughout, he's always helping and doing things, but they just don't care about him.
Yeah, it's just that he's, like, doing he's like helping with things that somebody more important is doing better.
Yeah, he's helping Luke or he's helping Kraus.
Yeah, he's like always standing next to somebody, waiting to be told what to do. I don't think he has any lines either.
Oh, he does have a line. He says in the first one, "I thought it was a siren." Which again, I'm just putting
Oh
my
my
like
God.
vague crispy voice on because I can't help myself.
That's funny. Chris is dead. He was Marissa's friend. Um, but that's too bad because he's dead now. So
Look,
too bad.
he was like a hot dude. He was just more of like he was only in the gaming club to hang out with his homies. Like he seems like he was probably the chillest dude in the whole group. I want to be
I
friends
I
with
had
Chris.
canon I had canon Chris as being gay, solely based on the fact that Kraus said he always has girls hanging around him, but he's not sure why. I feel like it's the gay vibes. They wanna get with him, and he's not interested.
Yeah, I can accept it. I can accept it.
Yeah,
But he seems like a really good dude. He was Marissa's friend through all her problems, and even though he couldn't like relate on the level that Noelle could, they just hanging on strong. We don't know much about Chris, and we will not see him again.
yeah. Everyone was really sad that he died, including. I mean, I don't know how sad Kraus was, but he was like very disturbed.
Marissa will mention later that like part of what's making this all so hard for her is that both Noelle is unconscious, so she can't talk to her, and Chris is gone, and so she doesn't feel like
Yeah,
she has any actual ties to the group now. So
yeah, it makes sense.
yeah, so she's alone again.
Let's talk about the Sea Mark and Scion, and it's just gonna be also a part of Power's knowledge and world building because they're so ingrained in that.
Fail, sorry. Fail goes, "You did. I slacked. But let me just point out, Vic is still slacking on Ward, so that is the real slack."
No, 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 no. I will finish Ward when you. I was gonna say when you finish Andor, but that's not true because Andor's like 8 episodes, isn't it?
It's 12, but very short.
Okay,
Like,
very short.
comparatively. It's like one
Um,
long arc of Ward.
the Seamerg is a huge bitch. She has been keeping the secret that she
Huge,
is a
literally.
tinker this whole time
She's
for
15
years
feet
and
tall.
years.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think that she actually is a tinker in the way that, like, if there was not someone else around, she could not do this. But what she's doing when she's tinkering is, I think she can copy designs that she's physically close to. And also, she can, like, forward, backward play events like a million times in her head in a way where she sees the creation of a device by forcing the tinker into some weird situation where they're creating it. So as long as the tinker's around, she can do
Mm.
tinker things, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Um, she purposefully creates a portal to what I can only assume is Cauldron and drops maybe hundreds, probably hundreds of case 53s into the middle of the city during a fight. What a crazy move. Like it's like she's always doing so many things at once because it's like she not only is doing like spoilies, but she's fucking with the travelers on purpose. She wants them to get all fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, she does this massive move the with the case 53s, which makes the traveler seem like a side project. She's like, well,
Well,
while I'm here,
the thing
I might as
is,
well just bring these guys into the fray.
think about it this way though too, is that that's the same move. Like her bringing the case 53s there is the same thing as her bringing the cauldron vials there. Like it all
Yeah,
shoots through
yeah,
the portal at the same time.
yeah, true. It just is kind of rude.
And
She
she does
also
specifically pull them first. Like I don't know how many like times she uses the device, but she has to rebuild it after she has used it for the use that pulls the travelers in. So it's like,
Yeah, I thought like maybe the building like wrecked it when it went through, or like somebody like blew it up a little bit and then she had to work on it again.
right, but it's like so pointed that she's doing this thing that is such a, in comparison, minor action to bring through the building with the seven of them or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like when the seven of them are out of the building and off the side of it, she kills everybody else inside and grinds them up.
Yeah. She
And
chews them up and eats them.
well, she uses them as a debris field to take like shots that are flying at her, so it's pretty bad.
Really fucked up. She's just so mean. Oh my god, I just realized the Seamerg is Marissa's mom, the mega bitch.
Oh my god, can you believe that her
She's,
mom was the Seamerg this whole time? My drawing of Marissa is just
I
going to be the same drawing with the pupils put in.
yeah, yeah. Do you have anything to say about the Seamerg? She's just a huge bitch. She sucks. She's so mean.
Let me think. I think the Seamerg is a
I
really good antagonist, and
I, I think that we didn't realize that where the Seamerg goes, they put under quarantine. I don't think that they had mentioned that
right. I mean,
directly
we
yet
don't even
at
know
her
that.
exposure.
We don't even know that yet until the grandiose thing. So that's like the
Yeah.
first time we kind of know. We know from the past that we've been told that the Seamer killed Alan Richter's family, and that's what made him go crazy and become mannequin. But
hmm
I
And
think
we've
that
been
that's
told that
directly a
like
mischaracterization. Like his family was killed, but I think that she had to use a bunch of like, she probably like fucking focused on him the whole time. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. She sings directly into their heads. Um, and we've heard from maybe Tattletale before, where they're like, even when
They
we
think she's a
lose,
true psychic. Oh yeah, sorry.
yeah,
Taylor does
yeah, yeah,
say
yeah.
that in her
She's a
own head.
she's a true psychic, but also when you lose against the Seamerg, or when you win against the Seamerg, which they often do, you're still losing in the long run because of the after effects. So we're getting a sense of what those after effects are. They've quarantined off this whole area. They kill the capes who have been exposed to her for too long. Not
Well, it's also
ideal.
like it's so vague in the previous version of it because the way that Taylor says that thought is win every battle, lose the war, and you're just like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's like this has been like implied the whole time. So it is like a cool like ramp up reveal where they're like giving us tidbits. Like they say straight up, like listening to her sing is enough for them to euthanize us basically in this chapter, but like we don't understand the full effects of it yet.
They it's a really good slow reveal in my opinion because it's like
Yeah.
the info is doled out over the course of like 5 or 6 chapters, and even in chapter like 17.8 we're still learning things from something Krauss says that's like post hoc research that he's done in the
hmm
year between the two scenes or whatever,
Yeah.
where he's like, the only way to escape her grasp is to be around a bunch of precogs who are using their powers a whole bunch.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You have to like, I don't know. It seems like she pushes like fate or some, like she's more than just a precog, but I
She's
don't know if
looking
I have
forward
like a
and
good
backward,
grasp.
and the she can see, and I mean this is like, in a way, hella spoilers, but also not, because I'm not telling you the plot of the book. But she can see forward and backward in time and see that the effects that her changed actions will have, and that
hmm
the song itself and her physical actions and her telekinesis are all factored into this. So she actually has no vision of the present, um,
hmm
but she can see all these various visions of the future. And the reason it takes her time to dial stuff in is because she's like feeling out a situation and inputting stimuli and then like finding the best. It's like when they talk about like, oh, if I focus on it, it seems to like change or whatever. It's like she's like actively focusing on switching up the stimuli until she gets a result that she wants, and then she's like, oh, this is gonna be good. But she can't see, as far as I know, she can't see trigger events, and as far as I know, she can't see through like the truly top tier precogs. But they don't affect her that much, so she doesn't worry about it. Also, I keep
included
saying
Scion
she,
here,
but
but
she's kind of like,
he doesn't really do anything.
Kind of like force of nature-y, less person-y. And I mean, same for all the Endbringers. They're not like people in the traditional sense.
Vale said she's the embodiment of trauma, unable to see the present, only the past and the future. I
mean, that makes sense. I just hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't. Scion is here. He's doing his normal Scion thing. He doesn't really do anything.
He's also like kind of dumb. He like literally like runs after. He flies away to fight an ice sculpture, more or less.
Yeah, he's pretty dumb. I mean,
then again,
we've heard of him
way
like
later. Like he hates when people duplicate themselves in front of him. He hates that shit.
Oh yeah. Got a personal problem with it. That's funny.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to say about Scion. He can't. He's so out of the Seamerg's league that she, like, more or less doesn't try and fight him. Scion is a himbo. Thank you, 2 + 4 times 5.
Good assessment. I'm not gonna go over this now, but I do have this document created by Wildbow, describing the video game that they're playing.
My word.
I couldn't. There was lots of slides. I didn't want to read it all, but I will share it in the chat after this.
I want to talk about it on one of the future weeks if we can.
Okay, we can save it then.
We'll put it in the bonus for the later things. But
yeah, I was trying to figure out, like, I was trying to remember what the game was like, because I had envisioned that I would learn about it this chapter, and so I was looking it up, and in the wiki they referenced this document, and it's like a 20 to 40 page slideshow describing some aspects of the game. So we'll take a look.
I was gonna say, I think before next week, because I was going off memories, I think both of us should look ahead and reread the Noel interlude that will come up later.
Sure.
Because it's got so many flashbacks and stuff, and like literally that's what you were thinking of for the video game part.
Yeah, I was.
Vale, he might be dumb, but those abs. I wanted to say about powers knowledge and world building. In 17.2 we talked about it, but I'm going to first read this Dealy Bop, the full description of the guy, and then sort of talk about it. A man, pale, with a head twice as large as his torso. His arms and legs were atrophied, and he crawled, dragging his head along the pavement. It looked as though he'd sustained some damage in being flung halfway across the city. His head was nearly caved in at the top, a bloody ruin with fragments of skull sticking out. So, pretty cool design. There's a lot of good Case 53s. But then when he says, help me, how? And then, how can we help? Give me your memories, he says. Give them, I want to dream again. I haven't dreamed in so long. And the reason I specifically pulled this out, aside from being incredible, like, couple lines of dialogue where it's like, that's what we get. But what I think is important here is the dreams thing. Whenever dreams come up, like the Metal Gear Solid exclamation point goes above my head, I'm like, there, because like as we'll like learn more and more in Parahumans, the powers don't understand dreams, and that's one of the things that they're actively like working around to try to figure out. We've got things like Miss Militia, unable to dream, only able to see perfect recreations of like what real like in real life our memories are not perfect, so they're not whatever we really saw, and they get more and more imperfect with time. But she's really seeing a real like beat for beat recreation, like a real memory that we don't actually have, you know? So like dreams are used in different ways, and like it can be said, oh, dragon doesn't sleep because dragon's an AI, whatever. But like clearly they all have these like weird interactions with that, and whenever somebody has a power that involves dreaming directly, it gets like super weird. Sometimes you get eaten up by a monster that's only inside someone's head or something. Who knows? Ward is awesome, by the way. I don't know. It just like really struck me that there's a case 53 who wants to drain someone's mind of their memories so that he can have dreams again.
Yeah, it was very startling because he's like bleeding to death and his limbs are all fucked up, and then she's like, "How can I help you?" He's like, "Your dreams."
Well, also,
I want your memories.
Like this was just a choice on Crispy's part, but in his reading, he puts over a filter on the guy's voice, and it sounds like awesome. It's cool and creepy. It's like multiple voices. I mean, I'm sure it's just a filter, but it sounds like multiple layered voices almost.
That's cool.
So yes. So we kind of talked about a lot of this stuff already, and we'll talk about the world building more, but like we just see so much shit happen. Like
it's a really intense chapter.
Yeah, like as someone who already knows what the Seamerg is and does, it's like, okay, there's way less going on or whatever, but like putting myself back in the position of like I just know that she's called the Seamerg. I don't know what it's like shaped like. I don't know what the powers are. I don't understand all this cryptic bullshit everybody's been saying. And it's kind of like, whoa. But it's we were very character focused in this. We kind of skipped a lot of the she's flying about in the air and flinging things in all directions because she's got really good telekinesis.
Yeah, she's throwing things around, she's tinkering, she's screaming in everyone's heads.
Also,
she's got a lot going on.
This portal wasn't just like just any portal. It's like specifically Professor Haywire portal, which we heard about him all the way back in Arc 2, I think, when they watched the Star Wars prequels from Earth Aleph. And she steals his tech. They say the late Dr. Haywire, and I got the impression that he's the late Dr. Haywire because of this situation. So steals his tech, murders the shit out of him, and then proceeds to like open up portals in a way he could never manage because he only ever had the portal to Earth Aleph. Maybe it was like secret, I don't know. But it was interesting that it's not just some portal. It's like a thing that was the planting and the payoff in this story is just so good, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you have any more powers knowledge or world building?
No, let's do audience participation.
Hooray! So the audience participation answers. We've got. I'm gonna do the questions separately and go like one question, read all three answers, one question or second question kind of thing. So for 17.1, what would you do about the team situation as Luke/Jess? Basically, the people, or even Marissa, the people who are periphery but still on the team, but like they're not dating crowds. So we get. From 2 + 4 × 5, I'm on the autism spectrum, so I'd go with the logical route, like Kraus or like Luke said, Kraus is better at the game than Cody. thus possibly accidentally alienating both sides. I don't know. Well, I mean, that makes sense. Do you have any comments on that specifically?
No, I agree. I feel like personality wise, if you're not a Kraus fan, they're both unenjoyable to be around. So I feel like I would probably go with whoever was better.
Been in this kind of
But
situation. Like, I have
yeah.
been on a team where after we won, we had to whittle the team down to a smaller number to go on the trip, and I was the last one
Hmm.
in.
Hmm.
It was when I was doing science bowl, and I went to DC because we won state. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, I don't know. It's there's like all sorts of factors that go into like what it actually comes down to. And like the
Hmm.
reason I was in was because I had sort of like I really wanted us to be in it, and it was supposed to be a high school only event, but then we had to like we like literally were forced to take in the ninth graders as well, who are like not people we knew. So we had this really like strained dynamic at first, and it ended up being like a direct 50-50 split where there were three of the people in my like grade cohort. I can't even say my age because one of the people was Kevin, and so he's actually younger than the young class, but it was all mixed up in our brain because we were matched by classes, not by age. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was, I don't know, it was super contentious. You know, we had to fight for our spots, and it was only because I had put in so much effort getting Kevin and Yvonne in the team that I think I was one of the people who was in the core group.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and something to consider, especially with this kind of team situation, is how well the person meshes with the rest of them. So if they are like, because they don't seem to be, I mean, they keep saying Cody's their friend, but they call him boring, which isn't something I would say probably about my friends.
yeah,
It's not very nice. And like as many like things that they say about Kraus, like they seem to not like Cody that much.
I think that Cody is someone who they were fine with before, but then when Kraus entered the picture, he just he it sounds like he was maybe always like a rage gamer, but like now he's a rage gamer who's
Mm,
mad at someone in the room, which is a lot different.
yeah. Yeah, he probably like has gotten like worse and worse, and then like especially when Kraus started dating Noelle and stuff.
I just read Greg's answer. It's easy for me.
Okay.
One is kind of a shitty person, and the other is slightly more tolerable and better at the game. Kick Cody to the curb! I would not have had this discussion immediately before the match, though. That sucks.
No, no, yeah, that's like it's like insane that they're like, but they also are teenagers, so like they probably were like on a time crunch or like
Well,
or having
and
like
stuff does
issues
get
getting
weird.
together and stuff.
Like, literally, we had to decide right after winning state, like, that in the next, like, 20 minutes, who out of the 8 people on stage would be the 6 people going on the plane.
That's
It's just like,
crazy.
fuck. Yeah, so sometimes these things happen and you don't have any time to discuss.
Yeah.
Vince says they're both toxic. One is toxic like a leech. The other is toxic by being controlling. I would reform the team into 2 groups, one for only toxic people, and have the 2 of them on Team Toxic, and the other one, the other for the well-adjusted, normal, not toxic people, and keep the group separate at all times. I would also make a team rule that nobody drinks potions or vials of any kind. Uh,
This is bullshit. I'm not going on that team.
just a standard
I'm
team
taking the
rule, you know how it
vials.
is. And then
I'm
that got
taking
the
the
Monster
vials. I don't
Energy
care.
logo from People at 4 times 5.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna increase the number of Monster Energy ratings that gets. Uh, um, but Greg, I liked your answer. I thought that was funny. One is slightly more tolerable.
It's true.
Let's see here. Vale says standard team rules. Yes, yes. Definitely. Um, fucking Monster Energy. I don't know why I find that so funny, but do you have any more thoughts on this? If I was actually, you know what? If I was Luke and Jess, I pretty much agree with like especially as a teenager. I agree with a combination of what Greg and 2 plus 4 times 5 said because honestly, I would be thinking about winning.
I also, the only thing I would do different is not have Kraus been here for this discussion.
Yeah, I wouldn't have let him be there. I would have said like the 4 of us.
I would have told him it was happening.
Yeah,
I would have been like, hey, we want you on the team and we're going to have a group discussion about it. And then we'll let you know.
Yeah, it'd be like Kraus knows, secret from Cody. The 4 of them have a real discussion where he's really not there or like listening over a second phone or something. You know, when he's got the extra line, he's like, no, I hung up. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. I didn't say anything. I promise.
Yeah. So, yes, I agree with you. I wouldn't want him at the meeting, but I mostly would let him on the team because at a certain point, like, we don't go to nationals if we don't win state.
Yeah. It's like the fact that they're maybe going to like the international league is like so huge that I don't know. It kind of you kind of gotta let it go.
Yeah, when they say like when Cody's like saying all his stuff for why he should still be on the team, I kind of just like my brain differs back to what Kraus was saying because like no one jumped in and said no. It's the way that he said he was boring was not let's see. I don't think it's as bad as you were saying necessarily.
Well, he was talking about the plays, but he was also saying that the fans and the sponsors aren't interested in him.
Yeah, he said he's boring. He doesn't have fans, is what Luke says, and he's the only one to call him boring. But what he says that I think is more important in a way is to top it off, he's too traditional. He won't surprise our opponents. They'll know how to deal with people like him. I know what that's like in games. Like, you can go in with some weird outsider play and be worse and, like, keep up with people for a little while till they figure you out. If you go in playing the way that everybody plays, you're just dead because the better players are going to kick your ass.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, and then moving back to 17.2's discussion question, what was your reaction to Dragon killing Grandiose? And first we got 2 plus 4 times 5. We got, at this point in the story, I was starved for details about what the Seamerg does, so I was hanging on to every tiny scrap of info. But then this beat, Dragon killing a hero because he'd been there too long, made me realize she's far worse than I thought. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I think I've mentioned before that the Seamerg's first appearance at the end of the marquee interlude, that's right, I said it like that, caused me to literally break down sobbing at how unfair it was. Yeah, that's weird. I'd never thought about that. Yeah. So when we see the Seamerg intercept that message, then that's before we really understand what the Seamerg does. But also, in the chat, there's a GIF of the true reaction, which is just the guy from I Think You Should Leave yelling, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's too real.
He's such a good actor. Man, I appreciate that you used that GIF 2 plus 4 times 5. It's great. Let me see if I can do that thing where I. Is it? No. It's gonna make me go to the real site. I was gonna display it on screen, but I won't display their website. I would never. Greg's answer to this question was, I had a very similar reaction as 2 plus 4 times 5. The first Endbringer arc hit so hard that anything at all would have sparked dread, but we get the seriousness hammered home immediately. Yeah.
Yeah. And it like in context, it's even more serious because of the fact that Dragon is given the capability and wants like to do this. I call it euthanizing because it is like more like he's gonna die. He's not gonna have the good rest of his life, no matter the situation. So, she's saving him. But like we know that like Dragon doesn't really have the ability to just like kill people. And so if that's what she's doing here, and if that's what she thinks is best, then probably pretty serious.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I wanted to say, like, Grandiose, he's there for like 2 lines, but he seems cool. He seems to have a cool power. I want to see him floating around and shooting bubbles at people, but he gets murked instantly.
Yeah. Probably shouldn't have gone there, what with having wife and kids and all, but whatever.
He was a total wife guy.
He was a total wife guy, and hopefully his kid wasn't old enough to have gotten a bud, but he probably was.
Yeah. Oh, also, I thought just now of a new thing that I had never thought of before, which is that if Seamerg wanted to keep one of the heroes alive, what if she just jammed the signal to the bomb to not go off?
Then
they
she could
fly away or whatever.
She could definitely do that.
So it's like if they blow up, it's because she was letting them blow up.
Yeah. She didn't care about this guy. She's so focused. She's too focused on figuring out what the fuck's wrong with Oliver.
She's so focused on making Kraus think this is all about him. Bro, yeah. This is all about you. It's always been you. And then Vale's answer, 17.2, is agree with the others. It was the most powerful way to show multiple things in a single scene. How insidiously dangerous the Seamerg is, how inhuman Dragon is, and what the stakes really are like, or what the stakes are really like for the PRT. It does all of this without having a bit of exposition about those facts. Brilliant. Yeah. It's good. It does a bunch of things. I'm into it.
Brilliant. Great chapters. I feel like these chapters are so tight. He must have started them like worked longer on them. I feel like.
Look at the dates. I think this might have been like one of those ones where he released them all like day by day rather than normal schedule. Yeah, because it's like the 8th, the 9th, just to make sure, the 10th. Yeah, I think that it continues so that every chapter was released like day by day. And this was so
crazy.
These were released in January of 2013. So even though like we've gotten however far we've gotten in the story, we're in the year the story ends. So it started in 2011, went through 2012 up, and then has finally reached 2013. And even though there's like so much of the story left, because the chapters get longer and longer and the number of chapters like doesn't keep zinging up, we've actually got I don't know, I didn't calculate it, but I think we're more than halfway through our project by a decent amount.
Nice.
So that's cool.
Good job.
2 plus 4 times 5 says Wildbow had a draft version of Worm before it was titled Worm that was just the Traveler's interlude arc, but not as well written.
That could have been it.
Yeah, that totally could have been it. Also, like, there might be some like writing technique that I totally am missing, because in his sort of extra arc in Ward, it has this structure where everything is mirrored. There's 8 chapters just like in this, and everything is mirrored where like the fortunes of the main character, the action, everything like that are all like rising up until the middle and then like lowering. And so like
I think it might be the hero's journey.
this might be Hero's Journey.
Yeah, I think so because part of the all I know about the hero's journey besides call to action is that it ends in like a really similar it's going to end in a really similar where you're in a really similar situation as it started. And I don't know if that's necessarily true for this.
It
but
might be worth like trying to look at like the beats. Maybe that's something that I'll try and do is figure out how well that actually maps. I vaguely know the steps, but like I think that the hero's journey has overblown importance in a way, and I think that we've reached a point in our culture where many people tailor their stories to fit the hero's journey, and I think that's directly bad. Like I actually think it's like bad to just mold all your main like cinema stories into that when you can.
Yeah, it's gotta happen naturally to some degree.
Yeah, like you can write a good story where the idea is to do the hero's journey, but I think the reason the hero's journey is meaningful is because it appears even when you don't like go for it, I guess. And so and I don't think it's applicable to every story or that it has to be there for it to be a good story. And I think that's kind of those are two major pitfalls that sort of media people have.
Yeah.
There's no single script that will like hit all quadrants, I guess. Do you have any last thoughts about that before we kind of call it good?
Nope, that's all I've got.
All right, guys. This was a great one. I will try and now that I've done the portraits that I've done, I think that I can do them more easily. It took a lot to get pencil to paper because I was like, how am I going to do this? Where do I start? Like, what do I do? And it was your ideas that were able to break down the basics of like what I wanted. And just by like laying out a path for me, describing what you would do, I was able to start. And then, you know, I don't know that the Seamer turned out as well in my opinion, but I was pretty happy with the Jess art. Again, I still am not like 100% jazzed about the nose, but I like it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I did this.
I think I think you did great. I'm excited. I'm excited to see the ones in future weeks.
Thanks. 2 + 4 × 5 had said, "Ah yes, Ward's fabled palindrome arc." Yeah. So, I should start the outro music before I start reading the links. That's what I should do. Yes. Oh my word! It is not Monarch by Scarlett. It is Migration. I need to update this. Good thing I was looking here. Migration is the current song that's playing through our ears by ScarlettXOX. Twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue. She will hopefully stream more in the future, but who knows?
Who knows?
Our Discord server link can be found in the description of the stream and the channel. And then we've got the author of the work being discussed can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/Wildbow. The full text of the work is available online at parahumans.wordpress.com. And the fan-made audiobook is at audioworm.rain-online.org. Oh, and Greg had said, few artists ever 100% happy with their work. It's true. That's true. Except when I drew Ghostface. I knew it was perfect, and that I would never draw as good of an art as Ghostface ever again. I still don't think I've shown you Ghostface, Vic, but...
I think I've seen Ghost.
It's a perfect piece of art.
It is. It's a masterpiece.
and it's also the thing that I have the hardest time explaining to anyone else why I don't think it's a piece of shit. But I love it. My dream is to one day top Ghostface and do a better piece of art than that. So we'll see.
Yeah, maybe it'll happen.
Maybe. All right, I'm gonna end
Doubt it though.
Final goodbyes.
Goodbye.